Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the day three of Model Conference of Party 6. I'm Shubham Bhise, the Education
No,
Officer.
we are yet to start. Just give us a minute.
Oh,
We
okay,
will give you a cue.
sure.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Over to you, Shubham.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the day three of Model Conference of Party 6. I'm Shubham Bhise, Education Officer at WWF-India, Maharashtra State Office. Thank you so much, for joining with us today, as we have lots of interactive and exciting sessions scheduled for you all. Kindly be attentive and make your notes by listening to our experts who will be joining us throughout the sessions. So, may shall we go to the next slide? Yes. So I am very happy to say that you all are an integral part of MCOP 6 now. And I know that you all have been very attentive from last 2 days by listening to our experts. Saying that, I want you all to share two key takeaways from the last 2 days of MCOP 6. Please drop your answers into the chat box. Okay, smart goals and targets. Usage of smart in our work. Okay, that's really important. How to make action plans. Okay, 23 targets. Okay, okay. Negotiation tactics and making action plans, again, extremely important. Biodiversity over the years faced challenges. So yes, I can see a lot of you have learned, many new things in these last 2 days, and hope you will get to learn something new from our today's sessions as well, as we have, our expert coming in to interact with you and to share their experience and knowledge with you all. Okay, so going ahead, let's see our agenda of the day. Yes. So this is how exciting our day is going to be. Firstly, we'll be starting with a session on biodiversity for sustainable future by Dr. Sejal Worah, who is the program director at WWF India. Then moving ahead, we'll go for the next session, that is climate action and conservation. What's the link? By Mr. Saurabh Bharadwaj. He's the director of Climate Change Hub at WWF India. Then moving to our third session, it will be on effective communication for conservation, which will be taken by Ms. Komal Chaudhary, Senior Manager, Media and PR at WWF India, and Mr. Sumit Keswani, Senior Communications Manager at WWF India. And finally, we have our fourth session on sustainability in business by Dr. Praveer Deshmukh, Senior Counselor, Confederation of Indian Industry. So I want you all to be attentive, and make your own notes, learn something new, which will definitely help you to design your action plans and work on your goals going ahead. Okay, so make your own notes. Whatever queries you are having, make sure you're dropping your questions into the Q&A box. And of course, we'll have some fun interactive sessions in between. So yes, let's move to our next slide. Okay, so we are all are aware about the cat family, correct? The cat family is known as Felidae. Members of this family are often called as felids or felines. Now, in front of you, there are a few felines, mainly larger felines, who are the apex predators in their own respective food chains, right? You can see there is a tiger, there is a lion, there is leopard, there is jaguar, and there is cheetah, which are larger in size. Okay, the size in terms of their weight, their body length is larger. Okay, and they are one of the larger mammals that we found on earth. But do you know that the family Felidae has some small sized cat as well? Okay, can we go on the next slide? All the smaller in size as compared to their larger cousin species, these cats play a major role in balancing the food chains in various ecosystems. But do you know amongst these small cats, which is the smallest cat found in the world? Come on, share your answers into the chat box. Okay, so rusty spotted cat. Someone is saying sand cat, jungle cat. We are having all answers over here, and I can see the excitement. Okay, okay, rusty spotted, sand cat. Yes. So the answer is rusty spotted cat, as correctly guessed by most of our young conservationists. The answer is rusty spotted cat. Rusty spotted cat, it's the smallest cat in the world by size. It is just about 35 to 48 centimeter in length, almost as small, almost slightly bigger than the ruler scale that you have in your school stationery box, and it weighs up about 1 to 1.5 kgs. Interestingly, its historical records are only known from the Indian subcontinent. Today, we have someone special with us joining for our very first session of the day, who has dedicated her time and efforts to study the smallest cat through her research. On that note, I would like to introduce you all to Dr. Sejal Worah. Dr. Sejal Worah has worked in the field of natural resource management and sustainable development over 30 years. She is the programs director at WWF India in New Delhi, where she provides strategic direction to a multidisciplinary team. Dr. Sejal has worked in nearly 20 countries in Asia and East Africa with WWF and other agencies. She has been associated with many international organizations and serves on various government and NGO committees in India. Her key area of interest is the interface between development and conservation in the light of India's rapidly developing economy and challenges of climate change. Dr. Sejal has completed her master's degree in wildlife biology from the United States of America and has a PhD in environmental sciences from the University of Pune. As a personal endeavor towards conservation, Dr. Sejal has set up the Jabarkhet Nature Reserve near Mussoorie, Uttarakhand, as the state's first private nature reserve, aiming to demonstrate the links between nature conservation and local economic development. Interesting, isn't it? Dr. Sejal, I would really request you all to step ahead and interact with our students for our first session on biodiversity for a sustainable nature, for a sustainable future. Over to you, Dr. Sejal. Thank you so much.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Hi, can you all hear me? Yeah, okay. Um, right. Let me uh, get started. I actually can't see my screen, so we
Dr. Sejal, would you like us to share your slides?
No, the problem is that you need to stop sharing your screen so that I can start
Okay.
sharing my screen.
Okay. So Ragna, can you please assist?
Okay, can you
Yes,
see me now?
We can
we can
see you.
see you,
Okay.
and like you can start sharing the screen. We
I
have
will start
stopped.
sharing the screen. Let me just first say hello to whoever's out there.
Yes.
I don't know who's out there, but yeah, hello to everyone, and thank you for that introduction. I didn't realize that my rusty spotted cat was going to be highlighted. So thank you for doing that as well. I will now just start sharing my screen so that, okay, is this visible?
It is.
Okay, perfect. So thank you all for joining. And I know that you all are pretty much probably having death by PowerPoint. So I will try and keep my presentation as visual as possible and see how we can make it interactive. I'll get started. And the topic I'm going to discuss today is just basically the role of biodiversity, which you've been hearing for several days now. But what I want to try and highlight is that while we might be in a biodiversity crisis, both in India and globally, it's not all gloom and doom. There are solutions and there are ways forward. And I want to share with you some of those stories of how we can actually turn the table around from biodiversity loss to try and recovering biodiversity. So let's move on and see a little bit about the kinds of things that we can do to change the trajectory of where we are going now. Just to start with, all of you must be knowing by now what is biodiversity and why it's important. So I'm going to just very quickly go through this slide. As you know, biodiversity is basically all the forms and facets of life on Earth, which and all these different biodiversity species, etc., make the building blocks. And as you can see, everything from mushrooms to mammals to fish to plants to crustaceans to reptiles. Often when people think of biodiversity, they think of large mammals or they think of birds. But actually, biodiversity is everything that's living on this planet, and that makes up the building block of life on Earth. So biodiversity is critically important, and biodiversity is everywhere. And also very important to remember that we need biodiversity for almost everything. We may not realize it. We may be just going through life without realizing that a lot of the things that underpin our daily lives are actually built on nature and on biodiversity. So just to flash this, there's food, medicine, water. Obviously, we know is protected by biodiversity. Energy sources, livelihoods, human well-being supported by biodiversity, climate, ecosystem services, and health. Increasingly, after the pandemic, also people have realized how important biodiversity is connected to human health as well. So essentially, it's everywhere. We need it for our daily lives, for almost everything. But unfortunately, at the same time, what we are doing today is we are actually destroying biodiversity at a rate unprecedented in history. We are losing species, extinctions are happening, we're losing habitats, we're losing ecosystems at a rate which is very, very alarming. And just some statistics. Already we know that 75% of the Earth's surface has been significantly altered. Most of our oceans are heavily polluted. Wetlands are one of the ecosystems that have suffered the most, and I'll show you that in a second again. And all of this is due to human activity. So we are having an enormous impact on biodiversity and on nature. WWF's Global Living Planet Index is published every 2 years. We do an assessment in terms of what is going on with wildlife, how are wildlife populations faring. And unfortunately, as you see, the curve is not moving upwards. The curve is still going downwards. And we are actually seeing a massive decline in wildlife populations across the globe. This is a global figure. And if you break this down into the biomes, then you see that rate, 85% decline. Terrestrial biodiversity is declining at nearly 70% and marine biodiversity declining at nearly 60%. So these are not great graphs to look at. We always keep thinking that at some point, we will collectively as planetary citizens will try and what we call bend this curve upwards. Is it possible to actually start looking at not just a downward trajectory, but to start seeing how we can turn this around? And we are seeing this in some situations. We are seeing this with individual species. We are seeing this in some countries, but globally, we are still seeing an overall decline. In India, what's going on? It's not a very different picture. Mammals are in danger. Birds are actually even more in danger. Look at that trend, which is almost 60% of our bird species are showing a downward trend. Things like bees, which are often neglected and are critically important for food production and agriculture, are declining all across the globe. And this is not different in India either. Amphibians, again, a very good indicator of the health of biodiversity, are declining. And freshwater turtles, this is one of the species for which we have data. 25 of 29 species are under threat. So as you can see, it's not a pretty picture. But at the same time, as I said, what we need to concentrate and focus on is how can we change this picture? There's no point in just looking at this and getting depressed. Very often people ask me and say, how do you stay positive? But we have to, because, we have to turn this around. And, while individually this may not seem like a lot, collectively it adds up to something impending. This is a picture that I, and have a natural forest of the city, the Delhi Ridge. You see, the places are getting more and more. Don't sort of losing almost all of these green spaces. This
Hello, everyone. Sorry for the technical glitch. Dr. Sejal will be joining soon. Sejal, ma'am, if you can close your video, the network would be better.
You're on mute, Dr. Sejal. Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. So are you with me on this slide?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So I will just continue and share some statistics, and then we'll talk about some of the positives of how we can actually turn this around. So let's look at this picture. Hang on. I'm not able to move this. Okay. So in terms of water, we are actually in quite a crisis already, where most of our aquifers are going to be at risk and are already polluted. Wetlands are in crisis, as I said, all over the world, but also in India. Our rivers, as we all know, are in a critical state. Most of our rivers are either dead or dying, and the water is incredibly polluted. We're losing forest almost on a daily basis to various projects. These are forests being diverted for other reasons, and all of them pretty important. Wildlife species we talked about, many of them on the brink. And climate change is another looming threat, which I guess you all will be talking about later today. But this is again an emerging threat which we need to tackle on top of everything else. So in this scenario, what can you actually do to turn things around? And as WWF as a conservation organization has been working for over 50 years to address some of these situations, and we do have some solutions which also are implemented by many other organizations that are trying to address this crisis. So the challenge that we have in India specifically is how to balance conservation and development in a fast-growing economy. So we know that India needs to grow. We know that we need to pull a lot of people out of poverty and give them a better quality of life. We know that development is important. We also know that as a country, we are very, very challenged in terms of protecting our natural biodiversity in the face of this development. So how do we balance the two? How do we actually come up with win-win solutions where we can have development, but not entirely at the cost of nature? And there are some solutions that we will talk about. So let's start with the one that's most in your face, which is linear, what we call linear infrastructure. This is roads, railways, power lines, canals. These are all infrastructure that is much needed in the country, but which often cuts across forest areas and cuts across natural ecosystems, which starts causing a lot of problems. So how do we actually balance the fact that we need better roads, we need better infrastructure, but we also need to think about how wildlife is going to survive in this kind of a scenario. So given the fact that not only, so today we have this, I think we're about to surpass the US and become the country with the largest road network in the world. When you have that, you can imagine that a lot of these roads are going to be looking very different. So, I like showing this picture because this is how I remember Indian roads. When I was growing up, most of our roads were two-lane. Very often we were sharing road space with wildlife. And it was not unusual to see wildlife crossing these roads quite nonchalantly and getting from one forest area to the other, which is what they need to do. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, this is what our road network is starting to look like. Yeah, we are 8-laning roads, we are making new roads, we are building express highways, and these are not very wildlife friendly. So roads like this actually fragment landscapes, often are a death trap for many wildlife species. And we're starting to look at, how do we actually build road networks which are more wildlife friendly. And one of the things that we've started looking at is these kind of wildlife friendly roads. This is a new highway in central India. Well, not so new now, but this was one of the longest, and it still is one of the longest elevated roads for wildlife that has been built in Asia. So the idea is to create passages and create safe passages for wildlife so that they can either cross under the road or over the road. There are different kinds of designs. And this obviously is a underpass where wildlife will pass under the road and still be able to cross over from one forest patch and one forest area to the other. Similarly, this is a similar road being built to connect Delhi and Dehradun. This is the new Delhi-Dehradun highway, which also has a very long elevated underpass to allow everything from elephants and tigers to cross over from one side to the other without the road actually blocking or fragmenting this forest. Now, what's important to see is, does this actually work? Because it's easy to give a solution and say, okay, do this. And road developers will happily do this because they will get the permits that they need, because otherwise they get stuck often trying to get permissions to go through these areas. We need to make sure that these actually work for wildlife. And the good news is that they seem to be working. So many organizations, including WII, WWF, WTI, and others, have been monitoring the use of these underpasses. And as I said, the good news is that we are finding that wildlife is adapting to this and starting to use these underpasses so that we can actually build smarter roads, better roads, and more wildlife-friendly roads. And India today, I think, is one of the countries that is building more wildlife-friendly infrastructure than most other countries in Asia. So this is a good sign and good news in terms of trying to balance development and conservation. I'll take another example about forest conservation. So this is a picture from Arunachal Pradesh. In Arunachal, a lot of the forests are actually owned by the communities. And what we've been doing is working with the communities to see how these forests can be better protected for their own future. So it's not about taking away the forests, it's not about handing them over to the government. It's really about the communities securing a future for their forests. Because if you don't do that, if you don't start looking at these forests not just as places that can be used, but at places that need to be protected, we will be in trouble. So one of the things that's happening with many of these community forests is the pressures are increasing. And forests that were earlier used only for subsistence are now feeling new kinds of pressures. So there may be logging, there may be extraction, it may be, other kinds of uses that are happening. So in order to protect the future of these forests, we worked with the communities in Arunachal and had lots of discussions with them, and we had conversations about protecting their forests. And very, very positively, many of these communities, and there are more and more of them coming forward now, are agreeing and willingly and voluntarily setting aside part of their forest purely for conservation and for the future. So here's an example of one of the more recent community protected areas in Arunachal. The communities themselves identify the area, they themselves identify the rules, they themselves decide how it is to be used, how it is to be protected, and we simply help and facilitate them in the process. So right now, we started with one of these community conserved areas, and today we have about 10 of these covering over 1,000 square kilometers in Tawang district in Arunachal. So this is a completely community-led initiative to save forests. And what's interesting to see also is the community setting up its own rules. So as you can see, this is a sign put up by the community. To some extent, they're also getting fed up of a lot of tourists coming and doing things in these areas which they don't approve of. And look at the way they've put the sign, and they've decided their own fines, right? So they've put a fine of 50,000 rupees, which is, a significant deterrent. If you put a fine of 500 rupees or even 5,000 rupees, it often doesn't deter people. But this is the community's decision that we are going to make sure that we enforce things in a proper way. And as I said, they have set up their own rules and regulations of how to manage these forests. So this is again, an interesting model to see how the future of many of these forests can be secured by the stakeholders themselves. And of course, one of the things that is important is that when people protect forests for themselves, they also want to see how can they benefit from these forests. So we have been working with them to set up tourism enterprises, community homestays, even food enterprises, where they're actually looking at local foods and trying to see how they can revive some of their local cultures. And this is proving quite successful. So this is a great model of how forests can be conserved, but also benefit the community at the same time. We'll move on, and I'll take you very quickly to a different part of the country. This is the Sundarbans in West Bengal, the world's largest mangrove forest, as many of you may know. A very, very difficult area to live in. And one of the things we need to remember that when we conserve biodiversity and we protect biodiversity, it should not be at the cost of humans. And often what happens is that, human wildlife conflict can increase in some places when biodiversity is protected. And in some places when there is more fragmentation, there is more habitat loss, can also lead to an increase in human wildlife conflict. We need to see how we can work with people, how we can work with communities living next to wildlife to make sure, again, that they actually don't suffer the consequences of conservation, but actually benefit from it. So the example that I'm going to share with you from the Sundarbans is with one of the initiatives that we're doing there. There are many people in the Sundarbans who actually, on a daily basis, have to enter into the forest for various kinds of livelihood options. It may be for collecting crabs, it may be for collecting honey, it may be for fishing, but they are often forced to go into these very, very dense forests, which have all kinds of dangers lurking inside them, like this tiger. The Sundarbans, as you may know, has one of the highest rates of human-tiger conflict in the country. And it's not surprising, because if you look at the habitat and you look at how difficult it is, it's almost like a recipe for disaster. So one of the things that we've been doing is working with the communities to try and see how we can actually generate livelihoods, similar livelihoods or better livelihoods for them, without them having to actually go deep into the forest and risk their lives. And so one of the things we've been doing is working with them on honey sort of production. And these honey boxes are put on the edge of the forest so that they don't have to go deep inside the forest, but they can actually collect the honey from the edge of the forest. And this is, the honey is equally good, it's equally delicious, but it's a lot safer. And the good news with this is that this honey is now being marketed very well. Often what happens with these initiatives is that the marketing falters. So while you actually set up the initiative, you're not able to generate a good income or good livelihoods from them because it is either too small scale or we've not thought about the marketing. In this case, this honey is actually being marketed on Amazon. It's often sold out. It's doing extremely well. Interestingly, it was also given when the G20 happened in India. This honey was given as a gift to the leaders of the different countries. So it is actually something that is proving successful and helping again to find a win-win solution where people can actually benefit from conservation and also have improved livelihoods. So there are many such examples that we can share, but the idea again is to ensure that people don't suffer the consequences of biodiversity conservation but benefit from it. One more example, this is from central India. As you know that, in India, many of our forest areas and agricultural areas are interspersed with each other. So you will find this kind of scenario in many places where you have agriculture and forests side by side, and wildlife is often using this entire landscape quite, in a way which is kind of mixing up. They don't know the difference between agriculture field, forest. The agriculture fields act as a connecting corridor, and it's very important for us to maintain this mosaic so that animals can continue to use this landscape. So one of the things we've been doing is working with farmers to again ensure that they benefit from the wildlife that is using these landscapes. So, a tiger, for example, in this landscape will cut across the forest, will walk across the fields, will walk through the corridor, and walk into another area. And it's very important for wildlife to be able to do this for various reasons, for genetic diversity maintenance, etc. So we need to maintain these corridors. One of the things we're doing is we're using market forces. So sometimes you can also use the market in a positive way. And here we are using the market in a positive way to see how we can actually get better returns for the farmers living in this area, because they have to live with the wildlife. They are being asked to maintain the corridors, but they also need to get a benefit from it to have an incentive to maintain these corridors. So one of the things we're doing here is working with cotton farmers in the landscape to actually improve the cotton production practices. Cotton is a crop which is extremely thirsty. It is also extremely chemical intensive. A lot of pesticide, a lot of fertilizer, a lot of chemical use. And we've been working with the farmers to actually convert this cotton to what we call better cotton, regenerative cotton, organic cotton. There are many different terms to be used. But the idea being that if we actually improve the quality of the production, then we will find a new market. So what's happened in this case is that a Danish company called Neutral is actually buying all this cotton from these farmers at a premium. So they're actually paying the farmers a much better price for this cotton than they would for regular cotton which is sold on the market. And this cotton is then converted to clothing by this company, and it is sold to a Swedish national park. And the money and the benefits from that, as I said, the premium goes back directly to the community. So it's a great incentive for the community to produce better cotton, more environmentally friendly production practices, maintain the corridor, and at the same time get the benefits from conservation. So it's actually a market system that is going around and benefiting both the community and wildlife. And the final example I just want to give you is that sometimes we need to look for innovative solutions for protecting biodiversity. And it's often a case of trial and error, where some things might work, some things might not work. This is again an example of a market-driven pressure. So this is shrimp or prawn, whatever you want to call it, being collected in Orissa by trawlers. So this is a very major export item for India. India is the world's third or fourth largest exporter of shrimp. So this is what the fishermen go out for, is to collect shrimp. But often what happens is that turtles in the nesting season, when they come near shore, they get tangled in these nets. And if they get tangled in these nets, they often die of suffocation. And what we need to think about is how do we actually ensure that the fishing can also continue, but at the same time turtles are not dying in these nets. And one of the things that we've been experimenting with, not just for turtles but for other species like sharks, etc., is to look at a different design of nets where you can actually go out fishing. You can collect the food or the fish that you're trying to capture, which may be prawns in this case, but other large species, endangered species of wildlife, can actually escape from the net. So this is called a turtle excluder device, where you can fish. You will catch your targeted fish, but there will be an escape hatch for the turtle, which can escape out alive. So this is something that we've been experimenting and trying with, as I said, with other species like sharks, to see if we can design nets where adult sharks can escape rather than being killed, etc. So this is we have to just, as I said, keep innovating and trying to find solutions that may not always be visible or be there. And just to conclude, this is a summary slide, just concluding to say what I just said in 4 major points. Number 1, we know that nature is declining. Yeah, we looked at a 68 to 70% loss of nature. So that's a fact that nature is declining. The second fact is that we are the cause. We also know that human activity, whether it is agriculture or whether it is climate or whether it is food waste or whether it is land use change, we are the cause of a lot of this decline. The third fact that we know and which we established right at the beginning is that we need nature. Nature is important for our lives. We need nature to survive, and therefore it is very important. And the fourth fact is that we can turn it around, that there are solutions. We can restore nature. We can bend the curve if we make the collective efforts. So it's very important to keep in mind that while we might be heading towards a crisis, it is also possible to reverse this and change it. And we need to actually live with and work with that hope. And this is what WWF does, and this is what many of us do. And I hope that many of you will look at how your individual and collective actions can A, have a lighter impact on biodiversity, and B, even maybe turn around the trajectory of biodiversity loss. So thank you very much. I'll end with that and look forward to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sejal, for such an informative session. And I think the students are very much aware about how a country's development and wildlife and environment conservation can be handled in a very progressive way. I'm sure they must have got a great knowledge on this. And on that note, we have really some young, curious conservation leaders who have a few questions. So I'll take a few questions from them. So Vanshika Sharma is asking, what are the economic benefits of biodiversity?
Okay, so we can go into a lot of detail on that. But as I mentioned in my first few slides, the economic benefits of biodiversity can be both direct and indirect. So direct benefits, of course, are simply things like food, medicine that is coming from nature, etc. And, it could be just things like, insect pollinators. It could be things like water conservation. So biodiversity can provide both services, conserving water, conserving soil, cleaning the air, etc. But also in indirect ways, one of the things is if you protect biodiversity. For example, I live in the mountains in Uttarakhand. And what is very, very important with the forest there is actually they protect you from natural disaster. So one of the things that people don't realize is that the cost of actually dealing with a natural disaster is far, far higher than the cost of conserving biodiversity. But often what we do is we lose that biodiversity. We will then have a natural disaster, and then we have to pay the price of then resolving and managing that disaster. So one of the things very important, which I keep saying, is that in terms of biodiversity, think also of the indirect benefits, because people often only look at the direct economic benefits, but indirectly the economic benefits of conserving biodiversity are enormous for a country. From just even things like clean water. If you look at, I'll give you another example of Calcutta. The East Calcutta wetlands for a very long time acted as a sewage treatment plant for the whole city, free of cost, literally. Imagine if you had to put up a sewage treatment plant to treat the sewage of that many people in a city, what it would cost you. But the East Calcutta wetlands were providing that service for free. And now we are slowly but steadily destroying those wetlands. And then you're going to pay the price. So again, it's this indirect and direct cost of biodiversity that you need to keep in mind. And an economist will tell you, will give you figures in trillions. Literally, if you ask them the economic benefits of biodiversity in a place, we've looked at some of our landscapes and we've put the value of biodiversity in billions and trillions of dollars. There are also economic valuations, for example, of tiger reserves in India. Each tiger reserve contributes how many billions to the economy. So there are many ways to calculate that. But trust me when I say that the economic benefits of biodiversity are enormous.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sejal, for that answer. I would like to take another question. So the question is, why is sustainable development so often associated with protecting the environment?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Why is sustainable development so often associated with protecting the environment?
Oh, I mean, it is. So when you use the word sustainable in front of development, then it immediately means that you're looking at the long-term future. So what does sustainability mean? Sustainability means sustaining something for the future. So you can have development, which is just, development for today, but is not looking at the long-term future, or you can have development which integrates environmental issues, is more sustainable and is looking at the future. So sustainable development, by its very nature, if it is truly sustainable development, because often people just use the term very loosely, and they're not actually doing sustainable development. But if you're doing sustainable development, it basically means that you're taking the environment into consideration at the time of your development planning. So it will always ideally be environment friendly, any kind of sustainable development. So yes, the two terms actually go hand in hand because they're interlinked to each other. It's about how you design your development initiatives, how long term they are, how environmentally friendly they are, how much you're thinking of future generations when you're designing some of those development scenarios.
Okay. One last question, Dr. Sejal. So someone is asking, Kashvi Chawla is asking, what innovative solutions can be accepted towards conserving a local urban forest or waste management?
Okay, I don't think a forest is contributing to waste management. These are two different issues, right? So forest and urban forest, and let me just talk about urban forests for a second. Urban forests are absolutely critical. If you look at, most large urban cities in India or even in the West or anywhere in the world, most of these urban centers develop around a natural formation. So it could be around a river. Some of them are on coastal areas. Some of them may be around a large lake or wetland. So most urban areas have been carved out of nature. And what is very important is to keep some of that nature as part of your urban development for multiple reasons. As I said, one is, of course, just clean air. It's as simple as that. Urban forests, they help to clean air, and everybody knows that having urban forests is very important. They help to conserve water tables. We also know that. They help to some extent, an urban forest or an urban water body can also help in pollution management of, especially in terms of water pollution. You can look at natural ways of pollution management as well. So I would just say that, urban forests are critical, and in cities or in urban areas where you've lost it completely, I think we as citizens should demand. We should absolutely demand the restoration or recreation of urban forest areas or urban natural areas. Look at our rivers that flow through our cities. They're basically sewers. We should demand that we want clean flowing water, that we want green forest areas in our cities. Unfortunately, a lot of us are quite apathetic about it. And therefore, our governments also get away with cities which are actually concrete forests rather than having natural forests in between. So I would say urban forests are something that we should demand for, and in any new areas that are being developed, they should be integrated into the design. Waste management is a whole different story, and how we treat, manage, recycle, reduce waste is a common problem. It's a problem of citizens, of governments, of corporates, of companies. Everybody needs to act together to resolve the waste crisis. I mean, that's I don't know if you have a session on that, but I think it deserves its own session to talk about how we actually deal with the waste crisis, because there are ways of doing it, and there are solutions, but we need to scale up those solutions in a huge way to deal with the crisis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sejal. There are a few more questions, a lot of questions actually, but we will try to answer them, going ahead. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Sejal, for joining us today, and we are really delighted to have you and be a part of MCOP 6. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It would be very interesting for me to have these questions copied and sent over to me sometime, because for me, it's interesting also to see what are, young people in India thinking about today and what kinds of questions they have in mind. So even though I can't answer them right now, I'd be very curious to see the kinds of questions that people are asking. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sejal.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, students, I hope that it was a really interactive session, and this is something new that you have learned today. And I hope that you use this information and use this knowledge and experience that has been shared to design your action plans so that they could be more effective and more constructive. Okay, going ahead, let's see what's coming up next. So, there is a fun activity for you all. Since you are the young wildlife and environment conservation leaders, I think that you should be aware about the state biodiversity symbol of your own state. Not only that, but for the other states as well. It is really important because these biodiversity symbols are very essential to conserve that particular species, and it is a kind of pride for a particular state. But I I want to see how many of you are able to guess the state birds of India. So let's go ahead. Starting with the first bird. Guess the state bird. I am the state bird of Uttarakhand. I am also the national bird of Nepal. I am native to the Himalayan region. I belong to the pheasant family of birds. I dig up snow to feed on plant roots. Can you guess who am I? Let's see what are the answers. Okay, I can see hummingbird. Someone has said Himalayan. Actually, many of us said Himalayan monal. Come on, I need more answers. Someone has said kingfisher. Okay, macaw. We are getting parrot. we have getting five colored macaw. Okay, Himalayan monal. Okay, peacock. Okay, again Himalayan monal. Cuckoo. Someone is saying cuckoo. Okay, peacock again, Himalayan monal. So let's see what's the answer is. The answer is yes, as many of you have correctly guessed, it is Himalayan monal. It is the state bird of Uttarakhand. Okay, let's see what's the next bird is. Can we move on to the next slide? Can we move on to the next slide? Yes. So the next bird is I am the state bird of Arunachal Pradesh and Kerala. I am a frugivorous bird, but I also feed on small mammals and reptiles. I am listed as vulnerable by IUCN due to loss of habitat brought about by deforestation. Can you guess who am I? Come on, help me guessing this bird. I can see great hornbill. Okay, hornbill. Okay, hornbill. Many of you are answering great hornbill. I think you all are experts now, and I can see a lot of correct answers. Okay, I want everyone to answer this. Come on, this seems to be easy as everyone is answering it. Okay, hornbill again. Great hornbill. Okay. Can we see the bird? Can we see the answer? Yes, very correct. It's the great Indian hornbill. So yes, many of you are correct. It's the state bird of Arunachal Pradesh and Kerala. Okay, let's see our final animal. Sorry, final state bird. Yes. So I'm the state bird of Rajasthan. I am a large bird and prefer dry grassland habitats. I was in the race to win the National Bird of India in 1963. I am listed as critically endangered with only less than 150 individuals left in the wild. Can you guess who I am? Come on, let me see what the answers are. Great Indian bustard. Okay, somebody is saying ostrich, eagle, vulture. We are getting all kind of birds now. Okay, ostrich again. I think it's between ostrich and great Indian bustard, right? Let's see what it is. Okay, someone is saying vulture. Emu. We have a new option of emu over here. And the answer is the Great Indian Bustard. Yes, it's the state bird of Rajasthan. Yes. So very well done. A lot of you gave correct answers, and I'm really happy that you all are aware about the biodiversity symbols of not only your state but for the other states as well. You all are, very knowledgeable. And yes, let's move on to the next session. So now since you all are energized, let's move ahead for the day. As I can see, the excitement in you. For the next session, we will be focusing on understanding the climate change and its link with conservation. On that note, I would like to invite our next expert, Mr. Saurav Bharadwaj. Mr. Saurav Bharadwaj holds a master's degree in space science and master's of technology in atmospheric sciences from the University from Pune. He currently leads the climate work at WWF India. With almost 2 decades of transversal work experience, he has expertise in the domain of climate change issues, namely on generating and making sense of scientific climate data, adaptation, and mitigation for policy process. He has worked extensively on climate risk and conducting impact studies to bridge the gap between science and policy in addressing and preparing for future climate hazards. Before joining WWF India, Mr. Saurabh worked in the climate risk leadership positions at CRISIL Limited, KPMG India, TERI, CGG Veritas, and CDAC. We are delighted to have Mr. Saurabh Bharadwaj today with us. Uh, Over to you, Mr. Saurabh. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubham, and good morning, everyone. I hope you can see my screen. I've just started the screen share and the presentation mode as well. Although I can't see it in my screen, the presentation mode, but I hope you guys can see it at your end.
Yes, it's visible.
All right. Thank you very much. So, at the onset, I'd like to thank the organizers for calling me for this a small talk of something that I've been working for quite some time, which is climate actions and climate change perspective. And I understand most of the audience out here already know about climate change, and I was hearing the last session as well, and also read few of your queries and quite interesting queries that you had. So what we'll do is we'll try to go ahead, and what I'll try to do in this session would be basically try to be a little bit interactive. Although I can't see your questions because my screen has the full presentation mode right now, but then keep adding on to your questions as and when required. If you're not able to understand a slide well, and then we'll try to either answer it during my talk. My team would be there. They would try to answer it, or probably after the talk, if there are few fundamental questions or some important question, then I can answer it later. So, all right. So let's begin. And my first slide would be something that you already know of, which is climate change. So my question to you actually would be, you all know about greenhouse effect, right? So and what you can do, you can just write yes or no. So is greenhouse effect good for us or bad for us? What do you guys think about it? Is greenhouse effect good for us or bad for us? I'll take 10 seconds. I'll give you 10 seconds. Both. Bad, 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 bad. Good to some extent. Bad for us. Both. Bad. So what I understand from the answers is around 60 to 70% of you feel that it's bad for us, right? Well, I would say the ones who said good were correct. Greenhouse effect is good for us. It's due to greenhouse effect that the is possible on this planet Earth. If the greenhouse effect would not have been on the Earth, it would have the life would not have possible. Earth is made livable due to greenhouse effect, right? So it's very important. It's one of the most important thing that has resulted. And why it happened? It happened due to the atmosphere, the layer of atmosphere, and there are gases which are absorbing the sun's radiation, and it is making our planet warm enough for the humans and for all the life on the Earth. Now, what is wrong, what is bad for us is enhanced greenhouse effect or human-induced greenhouse effect. Now, with industrialization since 1800s, we have actually pumped so many gases, which are heat absorbers, into the atmosphere that has resulted in the temperature of the Earth rising many, many degrees, many delta levels above than its normal, thousands of years normal. It has actually passed that kind of threshold. And due to that enhanced greenhouse effect, what we are seeing are the impacts and what we call as a global warming. So global warming and greenhouse effect are two different things. Global warming and enhanced greenhouse effect are related. Global warming has happened due to enhanced greenhouse effect, and due to this global warming or due to this enhanced greenhouse effect, what has happened? it has actually resulted in a long-term shift in our average weather, which is called as a climate, right? Average weather conditions called as climate. Due to these enhanced greenhouse effect, it has resulted in a shift in our average weather cycles and long-term averages like 30 years, 40 years, right? And that is called as a climate change. So it's very important for us to first understand the fundamentals of climate change, or why exactly it is happening. It is happening due to enhanced greenhouse effect, right? And what are the main cause of greenhouse effect? Primarily, it's the the cause is CO2, and the graph on your left, top left, you see, where is my mouse? Yeah. So graph, okay, do I have a pointer here? Okay. So probably I don't have a pointer, but I can point towards this graph. So you see on the x-axis over here, this is present. 0 is present now. And this graph dates back thousands of years in the past. And the red plot, the red graph is the CO2, and the blue plot, the blue line is the temperature, atmospheric temperature. And you see, since many years, many centuries in the past, the temperature has mimicked the CO2 graph, meaning if the CO2 levels in the atmosphere has increased, the temperature has gone up. When the CO2 in the atmosphere has decreased, the temperature has gone down. And we have seen that happening in our Earth's history since millions of years in the past. So, to a fair and a degree of scientific approximation and agreement, we can say that the temperature of the Earth mimics the amount of CO2 levels that are there on the Earth, right? Because we have a scientific assessment being done by many different scientists using different kinds of proxy data in the past. But if you see the graph nearing 0, and you see the level of CO2 now, CO2 has never been this much in our atmosphere. Never, ever, even in the thousands of years. It has gone way above its highest potential that was anywhere there. So we can just imagine that the temperature will be mimicking the CO2 rise as well. So temperature will follow. So one of our key causes of this temperature rise are the greenhouse gases. And of those greenhouse gases, there are many greenhouse gases. There's methane, there's carbon dioxide, there's water vapor, there are many. But CO2 becomes very important because CO2 remains in the atmosphere for a very long time, right? So it's called as a residence time of that gas. So it stays in the atmosphere, and most of it is comes out in the atmosphere due to human factors. Now, I used human factors, and the earlier presenter, Dr. Sejal, also mentioned that we are the cause of it, what we are doing. But then, how do you assess whether humans have caused climate change or not? Because even since many years, during the period of previous Holocene period, there were volcanic eruptions. The Earth was a giant ball of lava once, right? And then there were cold waves as well. It was all ice ages also. So what scientists did was, what they did, they built a model. They built a climate model. Climate model is something which basically projects, or which basically simulates the climate, the temperature, rainfall of the globe, uh, what was there in the past and what can be in the future. So what they did, they ran that climate model to project or to tell us what will be the temperature of the Earth from 1900 till 2000s if there will only be natural causes to climate change, or to the temperature rise. So you see, we have the observations from the last 100 years, ground-based observations, so we know the truth with us. And that truth is seen So I would like you to focus on the graph which is below, which has blue and black. So that truth, ground-based measurements are black. And you see, this is how the temperature has gone up in the past. And when those models were run using only the natural forcings or the causes which comes only from the natural cause, from the nature, resulting in temperature rise, they saw that the models were unable to represent the rise in the temperature, right? But when they ran those models again with human induced factors like the causes which relates to human activities rising the temperature of the earth, the models were able to simulate the temperature rise very well. You see the graph which is on top right, the red graph. So you see the difference between blue and red. This is what answers the question of attribution, that it's human that are basically responsible for most of the CO2 and GHG gases that have gone into the atmosphere, which has actually resulted in a rise in temperature and resulting in climate change, right? So so we have talked about what was climate change, what is climate change, and what has been the causes of those climate change or greenhouse global warming, and who have caused, and how do we understand that humans have caused. And all that is there in front of you right now is all scientific evidence, right? So humans have attributed towards these changes that you have seen, and we have come up to a level that we have already achieved a rise of more than a degree, 1 degree temperature rise in our global atmospheric temperature, atmospheric plus oceanic temperature. In the last 100 years, we have already seen that rise. But you may say that it's just 1 degree. How does that matter? How does 1 degree rise basically matters? Well, it matters that the kind of impacts that you are seeing nowadays, you see a lot of flooding events happening, you see a lot of cyclones happening in the oceans, you see a lot of cloudburst events that are happening, due to which landslides are happening. All that is happening by just that 1 degree of rise, right? And the models have projected that in the next 100 years, if humans don't do something about it, we can see up till 3 degrees to 4 degrees of rise in temperature in just 100 years. What Earth has never seen in the past millions of years, that high rise of CO2 can be actually achieved in next 100 to 150 years if we don't do anything about it. 2024, last year, was the warmest year on the record. So every new year that comes with a new record, and the last year was is one of the warmest in over 175 year of history of records that humans have been keeping on that. On your right are the warming circles that you say. It says number of years and how that year the temperature in the atmosphere was higher than the previous one, right? And you see every year the temperature value is increasing, the average temperature value is increasing. And not just due to this temperature, not just the atmospheric temperature is increasing, other factors like sea level rise, it's also increasing, glaciers are melting. And most of this warming, the global warming, is absorbed by the oceans. And when the oceans absorb it, they become warmer, and a warmer oceans result in more cyclones because they have more energy to dissipate. So they build more cyclones. So hence a warmer climate will see more rainfall because there will be more moisture in the atmosphere, and we'll see more cyclones because the sea would be much more warmer, the oceans would be much more warmer, and due to these two things, there will be more destruction happening onto the in different countries, right? And whenever these impacts are happening, you may be staying in a place where you have seen a lot of events happening, or a lot of heat waves happening due to in summers, or a lot of cold wave happening in winters. We are we humans have are adapting to these changes as we speak. But there are always limit to human adaptation, or there are always limits to any kind of adaptation. And we are slowly seeing that these limits are being reached. In our last session, I read that someone wrote a question on biodiversity hotspots. Now, such biodiversity hotspots also have their resilience level, or also have their limits to adapting to changes. What happens if you, as a student, I keep on changing your curriculum every month? It will be very difficult for you, right? That every month your syllabus is changing. You will have some limits to your adapting to new changes also. That's And similarly, humans, everything that lives on this planet, including plants, including animals, have those limits to adaptation. And those limits are slowly being reached and even breached at some places, right? So future climate change, whatever is projected, not only this would increase these impacts, but will also increasingly such breaches and such tipping points, we say, when any kind of adaptation limit is breached, we say the tipping point has reached. There are different tipping points, so that's a different topic altogether. But then the short point out here is for you to understand is we are slowly coming to an age, or to a place where we need drastic steps to be taken place. So let's take examples of things that we have seen happening, not in distant past, in the last 100 years itself. First is the example of disappearances of lakes that are purely attributed to climate change. On your left is Lake Popo, which looked like that 1986 full, and 2016 it's almost empty, and it's a huge lake. On the right is Aral Sea. A huge sea has already gone, right? And the disappearance of Lake Chad in Africa. And you see, in last 40, 50 years, these huge water bodies have actually gone totally, uh, they have actually reduced to 1% of their original extent. This is a very famous example of our own Gangotri Glacier. And since 1780s, when the expeditions and the ground-based observations, and now from 1970 onwards, when satellite observations have happened, we have actually seen a decline in the Gangotri Glacier as well, which is attributed to climate change. And glacial retreat and glacial loss is also happening over entire Himalayan belt. Many places glaciers are retreating. Many places the glacial mass is also getting lost. And then we are getting freak weather events, like we are seeing snowfall in UAE deserts. We are seeing greening of Antarctica, right? And these are recent pictures, and this is not a one-time picture. They're happening again and again, right? And we are getting floods in Sahara, one of the biggest, you know, uh, cold desert as well as warm deserts are seeing shift in their ecosystem, their habitats, and such things are indications from nature that something is really wrong. We need to do something about it, right? And we talk of global warming, like 1.5-degree warming, 2-degree warming, or 3-degree warming. Why is it important? It's important because of the impacts. Just see, let's talk of extreme weather. There is 100% increase in flood risk projected if there is 1.5-degree warming of the globe. And if that warming goes to 2 degree centigrade, that risk increases to 170%, right? When we talk of species, 6% of insects, 8% of plants, and 4% of vertebrates will be affected if the warming is at 1.5. But at 2 degrees, it substantially increases, that percentage increases. The kind of vulnerability to humans, the exposure to humans increases many, many folds if you see 1.5-degree or 2-degree warming, right? So, and when we talk of biodiversity, the important link that we have, you see at 1.5-degree warming, 4% of mammals will be losing half of their habitat. And when it goes to 3-degree warming, 41% of mammals will losing half of their habitats. So just imagine the kind of destruction that these climate change will bring onto the biodiversity is enormous. And this was something that even Dr. Sejal alluded to. The report that WWF came out, Living Planet Report in 2024, it estimates a decline of around 73%, right, of biodiversity of wildlife population between 1970 to 2020. 73% due to climate change, right? It's huge. It's huge, actually. And how does climate change drives this biodiversity loss? How is it really happening? I've taken example of India, okay, because most of our audience here is of India. First is shifting of habitats. We have seen alpine species in Himalayas, they migrating upwards and threatening various endemic flora and fauna which are going towards extinction. Extreme weathers, the cyclones, floods, and droughts that are occurring due to climate change, they are damaging key ecosystems like Sundarbans. If you are not aware of Sundarbans, Sundarbans is this area. This is India, that's Bangladesh, bottom left picture. And this is the area of Sundarbans, right? It is a biodiversity hotspot again, a huge mangrove population, different species, tigers, nurseries, fishes, everything is getting disrupted. Ocean acidification. When CO2 level is rising, it is resulting in acidification of ocean and hence bleaching of corals in Gulf of Mannar. Gulf of Mannar is the space between Sri Lanka and India, very rich in marine life, also helps a lot in coastal livelihoods and bleaching, which they are getting affected due to climate change, due to ocean acidifications. Then different incidences of pests and disease surges, spreading of invasive species coming in, and glacial melt and river impact, which are basically endangering Himalayan aquatic life also, like this golden mahseer. This is a kind of fish that is found in that part of the world. And why biodiversity matters to climate resilience is because on your left, you see each biodiversity feature and its function that it basically gives. Let's take an example of, say, wetlands. Wetlands provide water storages, flood regulation. Dr. Sejal mentioned that wetlands in East Calcutta have been providing natural, sinks as well as solutions to the city problems. But and so the climate benefits the wetlands are providing have been immense. They result in flood resilience, they result in minimizing drought. But due to climate change and due to human factors, we are seeing these wetlands being either eroded or being reduced, right? So there's a lot of good examples in India which these biodiversity features of wetlands, agrobiodiversity, coral reefs, pollinators, grasslands, and sacred groves, all these are basically giving benefits to climate. They are helping us reach or build our resilience. And you remember I talked about something called as we have limits to adaptation. These ecosystem features help us get increase our limit, build our resilience so that we can adapt to those changes well, because these systems minimize the mitigation or minimize the impacts, right, of the ecosystem on the ecosystem, impact of the climate change. And how these biodiversity conservation is supporting the climate goals by offering natural carbon sinks. Forests, wetlands, and grasslands, they absorb CO2. They preserve species diversity. They boost climate mitigation that I mentioned. There's another thing called as ecosystem-based adaptation. I mentioned our adaptation limits is reaching. So what do? We try to adapt ourselves through ecosystem-based approaches. If we restore mangroves in Odisha and West Bengal, they result in flood mitigation. Whenever cyclone is hitting, the flood waters does not come in, inundate too much inside. The storm surges don't come inside. They act as natural barriers. Climate resilient agriculture is another way where, agroforestry and traditional mixing of crops is helping to cut emissions. Then there are pollinator protection, water security, and forested catchment, which you can actually read through this slides as well. And a lot of support of livelihood, non-timber forest produces. I heard somebody was talking how forest helps in ecosystem or economic activities. Well, forest is providing different medicines and different produce resources. Ecotourism is another thing that it is helping in economy, right? So when all this happens, when we preserve our biodiversity, it not only helps in fighting the climate change, but it also results in providing benefits to the economy also, right? So how are we doing about it? How are we doing? We have actually built many policy initiatives and agreements on climate change, on biodiversity. I guess yesterday, Dr. Vishesh mentioned about different biodiversity targets, frameworks that are there. Similarly, we have climate change frameworks and other frameworks which wherein all the countries come, they talk about the science, and they actually do different targets like contributions that we can do to minimize this climate change. Like India's in front of you is the India's national determined contributions. Like we will reduce our emissions, carbon emissions on around 35% that we said till 2030. The update is we have already gone past 35% reduction, and we have updated this target that now we will reduce over 45% of of our emissions by 2030. 45% of our 2005 levels. Then we will have non-fossil fuel based electric install capacity. You see, there are electric vehicles coming onto the road. There are LEDs being used. All this results in fighting climate change in those things, and also building carbon sinks, rejuvenating wetlands, forests, and all those kind of stuff. Which can also act as sinks of carbon. So these is a rundown of India's climate policy side of things that we are doing. We have a national action plan on climate change, and then under which each state has to build its own climate action plan, state action plan on climate change. Then there are different central missions as well as state missions on green crediting, on lifestyle for environment, conservation of wetlands, which is Mishti or Amrit Dharohar, and conservation of mangroves, which is Mishti. So such kind of policy initiatives through government, both central government and state governments, are actually on, which are helping in combating this climate change. Now, you know that we have already achieved around 1.3 degree of warming in 2023, right? We discussed about this. We have crossed that one degree of warming. Of whatever pledges and targets, frameworks that we talked about, it will help us reach around 2.1 degrees centigrade. Okay. So even though we do all that, what the countries have said, our warming will still, our Earth will still rise to 2.1 degrees, centigrade. And the point is, if we do what we are saying, if whatever pledges and targets the countries have taken, if we actually try to implement it, we will still reach a warming of 2.7 degrees centigrade, right? So which is much, much more higher than 1.5 degree warming or 2 degree warming, right? So the short point out here is we are not doing enough. We need to do much more at global level, at regional level, at national level. Otherwise, this warming not gonna stop, right? So I'll close my this talk right now by saying that what we are doing as WWF, we are actually trying to integrate our conservation, and which is much more climate informed. So you saw that crucial link that I presented in our slides, that how climate change and biodiversity are integratedly linked. We are actually trying to integrate climate informed actions in our conservation priorities that we have at WWF. For example, there is a project in Sundarbans that we have been doing called as Living Shoreline Project, wherein not only we are helping integrate climate conservation in tiger conservation approaches, or paddy culture, and how we are trying to do it, we are actually trying to build the resilience by installing these terracotta rings. This is ecosystem based adaptation. You build terracotta rings, you brought them. These nature-based approaches not only help in arresting the sediments and soil erosion due to cyclones, but it also helps in rejuvenation of mangroves automatically. We don't need to plant those trees; they automatically actually grow here. And then similarly, there are other projects of rejuvenating Chambal River and Yamuna basin, basically rejuvenating the entire Ganga tributaries on a bigger basin by actually integrating future climate considerations towards it. When these future climate considerations are integrated in conservation practices, not only we are actually having a foresight of the risk of the future, but most of our policies are also designed in a way that actually safeguards any such risk coming in the future. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. And I would like to acknowledge my colleagues Mini and Vaibhav, who have helped in presenting few of the data in the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saurav, for such
Yeah,
an enlightening session. I'm sure the students have now understood the impacts of climate change over the years, and at the same time, how they can contribute to tackle this crisis by, bringing positive changes through their efforts. So thank you so much for that. And we have a few questions for you, Mr. Saurav.
yeah.
Someone has asked, what is the difference between global warming and climate change?
Well, both are interrelated. Global warming particularly represents or mentions about this increase of global temperature that has happened in the last century or so, and due to which the climate is changing in a different way altogether. So climate is not just warming, but at many places it's also cooling, right? Regional coolings are happening, extremes are rising. So our monsoons in India are much more fierce. It rains for few days, but for many days it does not even rain. So droughts are increasing. Extreme events, high rainfall events are increasing, floods are increasing in the same place. So such are climate change manifestations. And global warming basically tells you that the entire globe, the temperature of the entire globe on an average has increased. So if we see Earth 500 years back, the temperature, and Earth now, Earth is much more warmer now. And due to that warming, the local interactions, the local microclimates of different areas are changing in a different way. So that's a difference between both of them.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Mr. Saurabh. So another question is, since global warming is such a global phenomenon, what steps can we take for its reduction at
right.
individual level? And would it have any change?
Absolutely. I get repeatedly asked that, you know, h- what difference I can make out of this. Well, if you do changes, if you adopt climate resilient practices, low waste generation, if individually behavioral changes happens, your entire start with yourself, start with your own family, start with these practices in your society, and try to build it. You see, you go to some places like northeast, you go to few islands, they do such kind of economic highly resourceful activities, and they are helping minimize the footprint, your footprint onto the earth, onto the climate. And this is exactly what we are also propagating, that at an individual level, the way wasteful activities that you do, you have to stop or minimize it in some way. And at the global level, at the policy level, even government is initiating means like stopping single-use plastics, it's generating awareness of using more LEDs, or renewable energy sources at the larger scale. So it basically is both things. We can't just expect government to do everything and we not do much about it, but it's more, it's it's action at the both ends, from bottom up also and top down also. Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering
Yeah.
that question, Mr. Saurabh. So the next question is, what role do Atlantic meridional overturning circulation and weakening potential weakening play in abrupt climate shifts, and how is this linked to Greenland ice
Right.
sheets melt and
Melting.
freshwater
Yeah.
influx?
So this is a
Yes.
very technical question. I would request the person to send me a direct email on this. I will send you a very nice article, because that will take a lot of time. But I will explain to everybody of what he said. This question mentioned that there are few things which are happening globally. Some global currents, some global balances are getting changed, due to which some regional changes are happening. So I'll give you an example. You have heard of El Nino, you have heard of these Madden Julian oscillation, meridional overturnings. These are global phenomena. Due to global warming, such global phenomena are getting changed. They are changing in their characteristics, their frequency, or whatever. Now, what they are, it's out of the scope right now of this topic, but there are some global changes happening, due to which regional changes are resulting, like Greenland ice sheet melting. And not just go to Greenland, our Indian monsoon. If El Nino occurs in Pacific, Indian monsoon, there is high probability would be very low, would be very poor that year. So there is a link between global changes and regional changes. And that's why I said global warming or climate change at the global scale is manifesting itself regionally in a different way. Like regional extremes are increasing, regional changes are happening. But I would request that person to please send me an email on this, and I will be very happy to answer them and give a very scientific but a very simplistic answer to this as well. Yeah.
Sure. So, Rani, it was your question, and please send an email to
Please,
Mr.
please.
Saurabh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So, we will take the last question, Mr. Saurabh. The question is, why might current climate models underestimate future warming, and what role do feedbacks like melting permafrost and methane emissions play?
Well, climate models are just models. Models are only accurate, are not that accurate 100%. Now they are underestimating because the kind of data that they are fed. It's We have a very large data deficit currently. There are many places where we don't even have data on. 60% of Africa, we don't even have the data, and African landmass is so big. Ocean, we have only covered around 25% of ocean on data, and ocean is the biggest thing on the earth. We don't have data that drives our climate models that well, and that's why sometimes they go a little bit off. But one thing that models tell correctly is a projection, is a probability. They say that I can't tell you when is the next flood's gonna happen in Mumbai or in Delhi or Uttarakhand, but I'll tell you one thing, that there is a 5% to 15% probability that such kind of floods in the next 20 years will be rising. So as a policymaker, you have to do something about it, right? So rather than knowing when it's going to happen, we at least know that yes, it's going to happen. It will be happening, and there is 15% more probability, or there is 30% more probability, right? So it's a difference between forecast and projection. Forecast happens in a weather model, like whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not. Climate change models are looking 50 years in future, 30 years in future. We can't give a forecast. What we give is a projection. What's the probability of occurrence, right? Such probabilities like return period of floods. So 1 in 100 year return period of floods in next 10 years would be 1 in 50 year return period, meaning the probability of such floods occurring is doubling in next 10 years. So we have to do something about it on the earth, or on that area policy level and all that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saurabh, for joining us today and
Yeah.
answering all these questions of our students.
But I've seen there are many questions that have been missed. So
Yes, yes,
please send me those. I'll make sure that I answer many of them. There are many of the interesting questions, and please don't feel disheartened because of the sheer timing. We are not able to, but your questions will not go unanswered, at least on climate. Send me those. I'll make sure that they get answered. Okay.
that's really grateful, Mr. Saurabh.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you very
Yes,
much, guys. Bye bye.
bye. So, it was really an informative session, on how climate change have impacted our planet over the years due to a lot of anthropogenic activities. Uh, so now we'll take a quick break, okay, and we will see you in 10 minutes. Okay, we have two more interesting sessions after the break. So, yes, catch you in 10 minutes. Enjoy your break, students. Thank you. Okay, and I hope everyone is back and everyone has enjoyed their break. We'll go ahead with our next sessions and continue the day. So, we have another fun activity for you all. So, previously, quite a few minutes ago, we had an activity on identifying the state birds, but the state animals are equally important, you know uh, they are again declared as state animals because they have a conservation status in their own respective state. So again, uh, get energized and identify the state animal for the particular state and share your answers in the chat box. Okay, next slide, please. Let's see who is our first. What is our first state? Yes, so you have to guess the state animal for the state of Maharashtra. Come on, I want to see the answers. Let's see who is correct. Okay, I can see lots and lots of options C. That's okay. Someone is saying option B. That's Jesus macaque. Option C. Option C. Option B. Someone is saying striped hyena. Option D. Okay. I can see the excitement. Come on, quickly, quickly. We have very few seconds left. Hyena. Okay. Okay. Option B. Option C. So can we see the answer? And the answer is option C, the Indian giant squirrel. Yes, it is the state animal of Maharashtra, mainly found in the Bhima Shankar Wildlife Sanctuary, and it's a large sized squirrel that feeds on fruits. Okay, let's see what our next state is. Here we go in the north, Uttar Pradesh. So come on, tell me the state animal of Uttar Pradesh. I want to see the answer. Okay, we got the first answer as option D, lion. Okay, many are saying A, swamp deer. Someone is saying otter. Okay, rhesus macaque again. Okay, swamp deer. Come on, quickly, quickly. We have a very few seconds left. I want to see how many of you can answer it correctly. Okay, okay. Can we see the answer, please? The correct answer is swamp deer, locally known as Barasinga. So yes, it is the state animal of Uttar Pradesh, and it is a protected species under the Wildlife Protection Act of India. Can we see the next state? I think this is easy. Most of you can guess. Guess the state animal for Assam. Okay, the first answer we got is A, that is Asiatic elephant. I can see everyone answering option D. Okay, rhino. Okay. Everyone is saying option D. Is it the correct one? Let me check the answer. Can we see the answer, please? Exactly correct. Yes. So the answer is option D, Greater Indian One-Horned Rhino. Again, native to the Indian subcontinent, which prefers to stay in the grassland habitats. So yes, everyone was correct. Most of you were correct who said option D. So let's go to our next session. Okay, so since you all are charged up with more excitement, let's move forward to our next session of the day. The session uh, our next session focuses on how effective communication supports the conservation efforts, and to share some insights on this, we have Ms. Komal Chaudhary and Mr. Sumit Keswani to share their experience and knowledge with you on this. Ms. Komal Chaudhary's experience spans over 14 years as a communicator with expertise in media communication and public relations, currently working as Senior Manager, Media and Public Relations at WWF India. She started her career in journalism with CNBC TV 18 and subsequently held communication roles in corporates, public relation agencies, and other NGOs. She has graduated from Delhi University with a degree in economics and completed her PG diploma in television journalism from IIJNM Bangalore. And we have Mr. Sumit Keswani. Sumit is an editor, writer, and photographer with over 10 years of experience in the media industry. He heads content at WWF India as the Senior Manager Communications, spearheading various print publications as well as digital platforms and social media campaigns. We are delighted to have both of you today. And over to you, Ms. Komal and Mr. Sumit. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Komal is briefly going to share the screen, and I'll quickly dive straight into our presentation for you today. We are going to be talking about effective communication for conservation, as you all know. And let's go to the second slide, Komal. So let's talk about why conservation communication. Why are we doing this? And what are the kind of purposes and objectives that we look at when we are doing conservation communication? And what are the possible purposes and objectives that you may have when you are communicating for conservation? Can you click, Komal, for the next part? Yeah, so these are the broader objectives that you may come across when you're trying to do conservation communication, and these are the broader reasons for our work as well at WWF India. So we all know that researchers and the scientists, you've heard some of them since yesterday, talk about a lot of climate change science, a lot of biodiversity science. We know there's a lot of sound research that's out there. But as conservation communicators, we perform the significant function of bridging researchers and the common public. So it's important to demystify this science, whether it's climate change or biodiversity or the threats that humans pose to all of this, to the natural world, for the public, for the public to understand and to change behaviors and to basically do something about it. So the first step to do that is to demystify science. And in an era of miscommunication, misinformation, where there's a lot of climate change deniers out there, it becomes all the more important for us to demystify this science and to make it accessible for everyone. Um, of course, most of the things that we do as conservation communicators are with the objective of raising awareness about issues, about threats, about the changes that we would like to see in people's behaviors, and to start a dialogue. So all of these are in a way related. Unless you demystify science, you cannot start a dialogue, you cannot bring about change. But they differ a little bit from campaign to campaign. So, for instance, why it's also important for me to address this at the very outset is because when you're trying to devise a campaign or any sort of communication for any sort of project, you need to understand who your audience is and what is the purpose and objective of your communication. Are you trying to just raise awareness about an issue that's not being talked about? Are you trying to start a dialogue around it within a local community? Are you trying to influence government policy? Are you trying to influence business policy around it? Is there a certain very specific action that you want people to take that may be related to consumer behavior? It may be related to daily lifestyle behavior. It may be related to the products that they use in their everyday life. Or are you trying to raise funds for a cause? So when you figure the why of it out at the very outset, it becomes very easy for you to figure out what format to use, how you're going to communicate, what you're going to communicate, and what the campaign will look like. Komal will take over the next part where she will talk about all the different channels that you can leverage as students. Komal, over to you.
Thanks, Sumit. Hi, everyone. It's great to virtually e-meet all of you today. And I must say, congratulations to all of you for participating in MCOP 6. I joined the discussions much earlier to my session, and I saw some great insights, some great questions raised by you all on biodiversity, soil, ecosystem, climate change, even artificial intelligence as a technology, wetlands, and this all makes me understand that that we are in such safe hands with you guys as the future of this country. But before I start or get into the next slides and start my uh, presentation, I wanted to basically get to understand or basically help you understand that why are you guys here today? Why are everyone talking to you about issues of conservation or the technology of conservation or the science of conservation? Because guys, you are the focus today. We all have to understand that the generations that you bring up to now, going forward from here, are the future of this planet, are the people who are going to secure this planet to be a healthier, cleaner, and sustainable planet. Therefore, you guys are the focus today. You can say the numbers speak or substantiate to what I'm saying. You are the youth of tomorrow. You are the youth of today. And it's because of you, the students of today, who become the leaders of tomorrow. The world is looking at India not just for economic growth, but because of its youth, a powerful force driving the largest demographic dividend. And like I said, with power comes responsibility. And as you all know from all the previous sessions that you've attended, that our environment is facing critical challenges, from pollution to deforestation to climate change and resource depletion. And therefore, it is important that we all get together to act now. So during my discussions with you or interaction with you, I will help support or help explore you the mediums through which you can communicate effectively, whether you take on a project from here, whether you take on a campaign from here, or whether you just go ahead and do conversations with your peers, with your family, with your society, community, or even like at a larger platforms at national and international level. So let's start. So what can you do for your planet? I think, Saurabh, one of the questions that were raised, I think, in Mr. Saurabh Bharadwaj's session that, how can you bring about a change? What can you do for climate change? Simple actions that we can start with, personal habits, green practices, educate your community. And something that we're going to highlight today in our session is communicate effectively with your target audience. Because we have to understand that today you, the students, the youth of this country is in a very unique position to raise awareness about environmental issues, engage with communities and policymakers, and promote eco-friendly practices and sustainable lifestyle. So today we are here to explore different mediums of effective communication that are responsible, engaging, and impactful. To start with, I don't know how many of you have heard about these mediums. The two mediums that I'm highlighting in this slide are podcast and community radio. So I'll just give you a very brief understanding before I get into the interesting aspect of it. So podcasting is a significantly important medium of communication in the modern era, offering accessibility, flexibility, and a personal connection that resonates with diverse audiences. So I will not get into the jargonizing of podcasting. Rather, I will share with you a very interesting example of a student who's running a podcast almost similar age as yours. So We the Children is a climate change podcast, which is hosted by a guy called Zachary Fox Dowell. He's popularly known as Zach. He's a 13-year-old. The podcast aims to educate young people about climate change and inspire them to take action, featuring conversations with experts, educators, and activists. You will be surprised to know that when he started off with the podcast, the podcast started was to raise awareness about how to raise a dog. But he realized over time and eventually found a greater engagement on it and wanted to contribute to the larger cause. So I want you to all to hear him out, to understand, and also understand the medium, how it worked for him. So I'll just play this for all of you.
Komal, we cannot hear you. Hear the podcast. If you can share the audio, that would be great. Hi, Komal. Are we audible?
Yeah. Can you hear her?
No, we cannot hear her. You have to reshare with the enabling the sound. Then only we can hear that.
Enabling the sound. Sorry, guys. I didn't know that you guys were not able to hear it. Where would that be, Silagna?
Uh, when you are doing share over there on top
Yeah.
of the over there, if you click on the three
Yeah.
dots, you will see share sound.
In the audio bit, right?
Yeah. Yes. Or else, what we can do is you can stop sharing,
Okay.
reshare it.
All right.
When the window opens, there is a on the side there is an option called share audio. So you can just
hold
click
on.
on that.
I'm not figuring share audio. Okay. You want me to stop sharing and share again?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Wait. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
I have enabled it. Actually, it's already enabled.
We can try it out once.
Okay. Just hold on. Yeah, it says it's enabled. Yeah, it's enabled. I think I will just play this again to check. I'm sorry, guys. Please let me know if everyone can hear this.
Sure.
Can you hear it?
No, we can't. Our tech team
Okay.
is reaching you in a few seconds just.
Yeah. Should I just wait?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks.
Komal, another option is that you could just play it on your phone and put it next to your mic if it's just audio.
But I also wanted to see the videos for the upcoming slides as well. So it's enabled for me. I don't know why is it not working. It's Silagna, then what should we do?
Riddhi is reaching you.
Okay, I'm in the library room. Just let her know.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Just give us a moment. We will just figure this thing out.
Folks, meanwhile, you can type your questions in the Q&A box. I'm trying to answer whatever I can.
Sumi, can you try playing it from your end, the presentation? Because we're trying it from here, the sound is not getting enabled.
Sure, let me do that.
Yeah, okay.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Is it on this Power of the Medium
Yeah, it's on
Instagram reel?
Insta. Yes, yes.
Can you guys hear that?
No, we can't hear you.
Did you? Yeah, no, we can't hear you. It's really strange, though, that we can't hear these things. Really strange.
So, Komal, in the
Okay.
interest of time, what
So
we can
no
do is
problem. I can just move forward. That's absolutely fine. I don't want to bother
you can
anyone.
share us the link. We will share it on the group.
No
Not a
problem. No problem. So, Sumit, I'll just share the screen back. Yeah, you can have a look. Should I share it? No? You can share it?
Yeah. I've stopped sharing.
Share. I'm really sorry, guys. I just opened the PPT. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So let me just. Yeah. It's not happening. Let it please. It's absolutely fine, guys. I'm really sorry it's not happening. Okay, so I wanted to show you basically how Zach has literally worked with experts, community members, and academicians on several topics, and how he started with podcast. When he started podcast, it was only his parents who initiated the idea with him, and he took it forward. It's been almost 3 years of him running this podcast very efficiently and effectively, and I wanted to show this as an example to you, so that uh, you guys can start your own. If you haven't yet thought about it, maybe you can think about it, because India has a large market of podcast listeners, and in various categories at various age groups, and this is surely a powerful medium, a growing medium today, for to be leveraged for conversations, especially in the space of conservation as well. The another important medium that I want to bring focus of all of you is community radio. The journey of community radio in India started way back in 2022, and today we stand at a robust number of 481 community radios in the country. So community radios are basically informal mediums of radio communication, where students like you, community members of any age group, or NGOs can actually start their own radio frequency and communicate with your own community. So community radio is a low frequency medium where you can communicate among people within 30 to 40 kilometers of radius from where it has been sourced. One of the most important aspects of community radios that I want to highlight to you guys is that you can create your own content there. You're free to create all the content in completely keeping in mind what kind of target audience you're trying to reach out to. Community radios, like I said, play a very important role in awareness and information. And when I say this, I want to substantiate it by saying that in 2019-20, when COVID struck us and we were all under lockdown, community radio played a very powerful medium to share information about COVID and COVID-related protocols to a large amount of audiences who still do not have access to modern technologies. You can say perhaps social media and even television. So to just give you a figure that according to the Association of Radio Operators of India, community radio industry witnessed a listenership of 51 million during the lockdown, which is very close to the television viewership of 56 million and social media reach of 57 million. So I'm trying to put out these two mediums to you so that when you can go back, you can actually go explore it with your friends, your school, your parents for that matter. And let me tell you guys, in every city that you sit around right now, you will at least have 4 community radios running out of your own cities. So I'm just opening this opportunity for all of you so that you can go back and explore and help share your project details, your campaign details to these ideas. The next, another very important thing that I want to bring to your notice that you guys are experts now with is social media. But I think it's very important to very responsibly run your conversations on social media. Therefore, it's very important to understand how you can leverage social media and how when you see influencers on social media, what kind of techniques, what kind of innovations have they brought in to be at that level of influencers, and how can you actually reach there? So I will briefly talk to you about a few ideas how you can talk, you can create content, or you can have conversations with your target audiences through social media and become young influencers yourself. So one important thing that I always feel that any medium, any content, or any messaging should have an emotional, engaging storytelling. Share content that speaks from the heart. Let people see what drives your passion for conservation. Interesting things that you must see during reels is the behind the scene reels and how you can do for a project on conservation. Show how it all started. Give your audience a glimpse into the journey, your motivations, the challenges, and the everyday efforts behind the cause. And another important thing that I want to also bring to you fact is you must have seen these very popular videos and reels of a day in the life of so-and-so. So why not, as being young influencers, maybe you can create a reel or a video and put it on your social media channels, walk your followers through a typical day, show how eco-friendly habits and conservation actions in real time and can inspire. The another important aspects that you can actually help leverage to social media is the surprise element. Who doesn't love surprises? So everyone loves surprises, and add unexpected twists or wow moments to your content to create curiosity and keep your audience engaged. And this, as we all know, the viral content, the virality on social media. But it's important that we are very thoughtful when we're engaging with the virality of any content in social media. Tap into trending formats and sounds, but thoughtfully, but do so carefully as in alignment with your conservation message. Use virality as a tool to amplify your impact. Another very interesting idea to engage with people on social media is interactive content. You can gamify your feed, ask questions, create quizzes, games, encourage your followers to participate. The more people participate, the stronger your movement becomes. And I don't have to tell you that, you already know it. I am just trying to put a streamline to your conversations through social media, and maybe there are many, much more examples, there are much more ways, innovative ways that you can engage with your audiences. But like I said, do it thoughtfully and responsibly. Another great opportunity that you have is be a voice on national and international platforms. You have readily available various national and international platforms. You are already on one of them today. Step up and speak up on these platforms that brings governments, corporates, leaders, and civil society, all of them together. These spaces offer a powerful opportunity to shape the conversations and build an advocacy communication channel, which truly matters. By sharing real insights, what's working, what's not, and what communities actually need, you can help steer decisions in the right direction. At no point, I think you guys should be determined of the fact that at your age, how can you change policy decisions? It's about the right medium, the choice of the right medium, what you're presenting, how are you presenting it, and your voices will surely be heard. Be rest assured about it. And mediums like national and international platforms are specially helps connect you with diverse group of people, build meaningful relationships, and make a real impact, like I said, which will surely come. I also want to leave you with some examples of students like you, young change makers like you, who have literally brought a revolution through their work in the space of conservation. The idea that the audio is not working, otherwise all of them had a message for you. So I will just give you an idea that, who are these people, and actually I'm very excited to tell you about the 3 examples I'll be sharing with you on lead by example of these young change makers worldwide are all 3 girls, and within the age group of 13, 14, and maybe 17. Yeah. So the first of them is Sharon Ringo. She's undertaking massive reforestation efforts in Tanzania, which is a country she belongs to, with a vision for a green Africa. She has also an author. She's also authored a book, and she's also a poet. And she talks about conservation of key wildlife species and their habitats. She had a great message for you guys, but perhaps since this, I can, Silagna, can I try once more? Just give it a try if this works. Or I shouldn't. I just move ahead.
We can just try, and if it does not work, you can straight away go to the next.
Sure. I'll just give it a try, guys. Yeah, I'll just give it a try. I hope it works, but if it doesn't, then guys, I can share.
So Komal, these are Instagram things, so I do not think they will be shared, like it will play. So what you can do is you can share the link with us.
Yeah.
We have a group where all these students and where all these teachers are there, so we can share with them.
Perfect. Sure. So I'll do that. Sorry, guys, but I would have really appreciated that if you would have heard her, because not only her passion has driven her for such a long time, but also support of millions of people, her country people and globally have supported the cause. And today she's also authored a book around wildlife in her country. The second example that I want to share with you is of a girl from Pakistan. Her name is Iman Danish Khan. She's a 14-year-old girl. She started climate activism when she was 7 years old and founded Earth Warriors, a climate education online platform for children under 16 years. The stories featured on this platform are available in multiple languages. Even she had a great message for you guys around plastic. Since July is the Free Plastic Month. But like, I'll share the links with Silagna, and maybe she can share these links with you, and I'll encourage all of you to go through what they have to say or what they have to share with you guys. The third example is an Indian example, of course. This girl is Spandana Bharadwaj. She hails from Lucknow. So she started as a hobby with her dad because her dad loved photography. And when she was handed over a camera, when she was 7 years old, she used to go on these nature trails with her dad. And today, as a class 12 student who took a hobby to a passion and keen interest to protect birds and ecosystems. An interesting fact about Spandana is that today she is also the environment brand ambassador for UP Tourism. She holds free of cost nature trails for tourists who come to Lucknow, okay, and show them around the flora and fauna around Lucknow and within the region. So she's doing great work at her end too. So all of this, the idea for sharing, like I said again, was because I want you guys to take this back with you that as students, you can do a lot. Actually, you can do much, much more than what we can all think together. So I wish you all the very best. And I just want to leave you with a small thought before I hand over to Smeet to give you greater insights on what best campaigns can do across the world. Believe in your journey, guys. Trust your effort and never forget, you have the power to make it happen. So all the very best, guys, and wish you all the best and hope to interact with you much more, many times again. And if I can share any insights with you, I'm right here after Sumeet's conversation. Over to you, Sumeet. I'll just stop sharing my screen, Sumeet.
Thank you, Komal. Hi, everyone. To be back. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll take over for the next part. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so let's dive into the next part. You've all heard about what you can do in terms of channels of communication. I've also tried to answer some of your questions in text in terms of what does effective communication look like. I'm going to show you some examples now. Bear in mind that these are not entire campaigns. These are some touch points on which effective campaigns worked and they went viral or had their desired effect. So this is, I'll let you take this in for a moment before going into what this is. It's basically a billboard that People's Movement Against Haze and WWF Singapore came up with in Singapore. As you can see, it's delivering a very complex message where it's talking about the palm oil in your toothpaste causing deforestation because of palm oil demand. And that's affecting wildlife as well. You can even see a rhino and a calf there at the very on the left end of the bristles. This, I want you to take this in first and see if you can figure out what this is. These are 4,000 dead birds. And in a departure from the normal, this photograph won a bird photography award in 2024. It's a photograph that was taken by Patricia Homonglio. All of these birds died of window collisions in Toronto. So it delivered a very powerful message about changing infrastructure design in order to make it more wildlife friendly, and in this case, very specifically bird friendly. So some of you guys may know that Pantone comes up with a color of the year every year. And in 2019, it came up with living coral as the color of the year. WWF Hungary came up with a campaign that pointed out that corals were dying, and we were having coral bleaching events almost every few years. And they played on this. They played on this selection of living coral as color with a message that said 75% of the world's coral reefs are threatened. Let's make sure it's more than just a color. And this example, basically, why I picked it is to show you that there are enough and more social media trends that you can piggyback on for conservation. You don't always have to manufacture a narrative or start it from the very beginning. There are enough and more conversations going on. This is an example of how you can piggyback on something that's already trending, that's already buzzing. I know some of you had questions on how do I reach a wider audience on social media. This is one of the ways. Tap into a conversation that's already happening, but lend your own perspective to it. We also did that this year. That was WWF Hungary. This is WWF India. So in January 2025, the world was abuzz for a day or two on the Golden Globe Awards, right? Everybody was talking about nominees and winners. What we did was on the day of the announcement of Golden Globe Awards, WWF India published its own awards, which were only Globe Awards. And we had some very creative, innovative award categories that took from the original awards and we gave them to wildlife. So you can see Asian Paradise Flycatcher getting best choreography, Lantana camera, which is an invasive species in most of our tiger reserves, getting best actor in a negative role. Tigers in the Sundarbans getting best adaptation because they've learned to adapt to that mangrove environment so beautifully. And a new species of gecko that was discovered last year getting best debut. This is another example of piggybacking on social media trends or news that's going around already. This is a poster. It was a very unfortunate and a tragic image that was captured by a journalist, Chris Jordan. And it was made into a poster about, well, cleaning up our own trash. And the message was quite stark but simple. It says, if you don't pick it up, they will. Let's be clear, this is something that we all know about. We all know about the ill effects of trash, about not managing our waste effectively. But seeing something so visually, seeing our trash land in the guts of a bird that we love, it delivers the communication quite effectively. It's another way of sort of showing, because I can show you 100 landfill photos of our waste, it will not have the same impact as this one image, right? And they also took care of producing this poster in a sustainable way. they used recycled paper and vegetable ink. So it's also important for you to follow through with your own message and see that you're also following your own message. This is something that we did this World Environment Day. If you guys follow WWF India, again, plastic is something that everybody talks about so much, but the message sometimes doesn't land. We've talked about numbers of plastic waste being 20,000 garbage trucks of plastic going into the ocean every day, 8 million metric tons. All of those are numbers at the end of the day. So we tried something new. We created an anti-villain this time. Was a plastic peddler who was actually encouraging you to use plastic. It was reverse psychology on our part. And the theme of World Environment Day this year was beating plastic pollution. So we came up with a series of comic panels where we basically had this plastic peddler telling you to use more of plastic and reveling in the destruction of the planet. Um, you can go to WWF India's Instagram and check it out. There was a whole series, and we use very cool pop culture inspirations. I'll give extra points to anybody who can give me the inspiration behind this particular panel in the Q&A. This is an example of an older magazine cover that had a stark impact again on the whole plastic messaging part, where you can see that it's showing a very clear message and is delivering a fact that again we've talked about a lot. 18 billion pounds of plastic ends up in the ocean every year, but having a visual image like this is much more effective than just giving you that number or showing you another photo of plastic in the oceans. And it was complemented by real photographs inside the magazine. I'll let you take this in for a moment. Right, so these were all visual narratives that we were going through. There are also things that we use in our everyday life, like this paper dispenser. And of course, you might ask that how can students do this? But there are various ways. I'm just giving you an example of how you can use ambient media or everyday products to deliver your message as well. This is a 2007 campaign where a simple paper dispenser was modified to show how your consumption patterns were affecting a whole continent, for instance. Right. I want to play this. I want somebody to let me know if it's actually playing and you can hear it. Is this audible?
No,
Sumit, we
Sumit,
can't
it's
hear it.
not audible.
Not audible, Sumit. Sumit, play it
Okay.
again. Play it again. Not yet. No, Sumit.
Is it audible?
No,
No, it is not.
Okay.
So
I will send this link on the chat.
sure thing.
Go and have a look at it after the session when you have a break. It's basically, I'll just give you a brief. It's a video ad, an animation ad that was created by Greenpeace International, and it gave you a message about palm oil and deforestation and how it was impacting orangutans in Indonesia through a kid's POV and through a child orangutan's POV. It was an excellent way of changing the perspective of a communication. And it was so impactful that at some point in the UK it was banned. And because it was banned, there was a whole petition around unbanning it, which worked. So it's another, for the animators among you, this is great inspiration that no matter what medium you're using, no matter what skill you have, whether it is illustration, whether it is animation, whether it is photography, you can leverage that skill to produce something that delivers your communication effectively and has the desired impact, right? So look it up. I'm going to send this link on the chat. Right, this is another link that I'll have to send, I think, because I don't think this will play. We've talked about, look, we are in the era of AI, right? And we deal with this new technology every time. But I want to go back a little bit to the 1970s and show you that I know that we are all become dependent on these new age tools for our communication and for our creatives. But even in the 70s, where AI wasn't even thought of, and we had very primitive technology. A marine biologist called Roger Payne discovered that whales have songs, and he went and recorded them and released a vinyl album with these whale songs. Now imagine if you're living in the 70s and if you have no idea that these creatures have songs. or even have any sounds, let alone songs, and you suddenly have these songs running in your living room. I'm gonna try to play it in my browser and see if you can hear it. I have it on here. Is it audible?
No, it is not, Sumit.
Okay, hang on.
You have to share the audio while you're sharing. Yes, we
Is
can.
it audible now?
Yes, it is.
I'm playing it on my phone. Right. I'm going to drop this link as well on the chat box. Go and have a listen. So, something as simple as recording the song of a whale had such an impact that, for those of you who don't know, this spurred a worldwide movement of saving whales, because at that time commercial whaling was threatening the future of this species. And in 1972, after maybe about around 10 years of this release, a global moratorium on commercial whaling was passed. And in 1986, by the time 1986 came around, whale songs were so prevalent in pop culture that they entered Star Trek episodes, they were on yoga tapes, they were on songs, they were in films, and they even went to space on NASA's Voyager missions. And because of this one album, because of this one marine biologist who thought, well, people aren't listening to what I'm saying about whale science, so let me just record them and hear them speak themselves. And this, by the time 1986 came around, we actually had a global ban on whale hunting passed by the International Whaling Commission. I'm not saying all of it was due to this vinyl album, but it did create a mass movement that certainly helped. Right? There were a lot of other touch points for this campaign. There were mass protests that happened. There were influencers and celebrities involved, so it was a whole movement, a whole campaign. But hearing these whale songs sort of humanize them for people, and that certainly helped. And moving on to 2020, I wanted to paint this sort of contrast between 70s and 2020, because even today we are using technology to save whales, but we've come a long way. So there's a project SETI, in which scientists are actually using advanced machine learning and robotics to listen to and translate the communication of sperm whales. So imagine now you're not just hearing them, but you may, in maybe 5 or 10 years, be able to understand what they're saying through data sets and pattern recognition. And who knows, we may be able to talk to them at some point in the future. I know it sounds like a lot of sci-fi, but with AI in our lives every day, I think we've reached that point where we've blurred lines between sci-fi and present day life. Um, and I wanted to play this video, but I know it's not probably going to play. Can you see this video, guys?
Yeah, we can see the video, Sumit.
Okay. So sound is not important here.
Yeah.
So this is a challenge that we face with AI, right? This is a video that went viral on WhatsApp not so long ago. As much as AI is helping us, let's say, communicate with whales or create creatives in a GIF, we don't have to learn Adobe anymore. But it's also creating these challenges where a lot of miscommunication is going around, where generative AI images and videos are being passed around as real biodiversity. Needless to say, these are not real creatures. So, as conservation communicators, one of the challenges we face today is being able to differentiate between real images and generative AI images. So, there's always a flip side to technology as well, which I wanted to bring up when I put this slide in. That's it from my end. I wanted to just rush through some of these examples. And yeah, we are open to questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Komal and Mr. Sumit, for sharing and throwing light on one of the integral aspect of environment and wildlife conservation. I'm sure this will help the students to design their action plans to bring more awareness about conservation in their respective areas. So going ahead, we'll take a few questions. Okay. So the first question is, how can the communication be made more effective with all the stakeholders involved in environmental conservation? This question is asked by Kaniz from Leh Ladakh.
Okay, so one of the things I picked up in that question was all of the stakeholders. I would say, from my experience, and Komal can weigh in here after I've answered this question, is that the most effective communication campaigns are designed for a certain target audience. You don't want to address all stakeholders with one creative or with one strategy or with one communication channel. If you have to address different stakeholders and different target audiences, figure out different ways of reaching them. So, for instance, if you want to reach your local community, let's say a local society or school or college, then maybe the most effective touch point for that campaign is posters or something that they use every day, like a Blinkit bag, for instance, right? Something that they have delivered to their home twice or thrice a day. But if you want to reach strangers on social media, then you need to tweak your campaign to be most effective on social media. How do you get the maximum reach? How do you get the maximum engagement? Do you partner with an influencer, for instance, in that case, if you don't have the reach? And if you want to reach, let's say, policymakers or decision makers, then perhaps you need an organizational platform for youth, the kind that WWF or other organizations provide, where we know that you won't be able to on your own reach decision makers or policy makers. So I would say that the strategy has to be devised according to the stakeholder you have. And regarding effectiveness, I think it's effective if you reach your target audience and if you deliver your message in an impactful manner, and if you manage to achieve at least some of your objectives, whether that is action change or behavior change, or even getting something on the policy making table. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Thank you so much, Sumit. We have our next question asked by Avantika. So her question is, how do we convince private organizations benefiting from increased biodiversity to help raise funds for its conservation? And what are the examples of such organizations?
I don't think I understand this question. Organizations that benefit from rich biodiversity, how do we convince them to raise funds? I raise funds for whom exactly? I don't think I
I,
get this
I
question.
think I think Avantika wants what kind of effective communication can we use to to have an interaction with such organizations to make them aware that the biodiversity is increasing, and you can be benefited through this. So what kind of communication can we use in this case?
I think the key lies in, and in most environmental communication, I think the key lies in driving home. See, from my experience, I think there's a very niche audience that cares about biodiversity conservation by itself. The fact that species survive and we have rich biodiversity. I think we have to, in our communication, we have to make it clear that humans don't exist on an island. We don't exist in isolation on this planet. That any changes to biodiversity around us impact us as well. And the moment you manage to bring that message home, the moment you tell people that the loss of bees will impact our food and will impact our food supply, or the loss of an apex predator like tigers will have a ripple effect through the ecosystem, or even on the rivers that pass through the ecosystem and hence on our water supply, the moment that message lands, I think people will start caring about biodiversity conservation, because the idea is not just to reach the people who already care about biodiversity. The idea is to reach people who perhaps may not have realized just how interconnected we all are.
I just add here very quickly to what Sumit said. So I understand where you all are coming from, and I understand that you always have faced hurdles when you try to communicate with your target audiences. But you know what? It's not about what medium you choose. It's about how you want to communicate to them. If I give you an example, as a basic example of a nukkad natak, you literally don't have access to any other form of communication, but you still want to communicate something about your project, and you have an expertise or you have an access to this group which can help you put together that messaging through a nukkad natak. That's also a form of communication. And like Sumit said, and like we've mentioned also in this presentation, I said, your communication has to be a personal. When I mean personal is how that project, how that issue is affecting or will be affecting people at large. Because the moment you start telling people, what this issue lies within you, like, okay, that you, if not responsible, but we need to be held responsible at certain point of time. So why don't we act now, right? Whether it's plastic, whether it's climate change, whether it's biodiversity loss, whether it's deforestation, any and everything, it all end with us. So we need to start from the micro to create a macro picture. And like I said, mediums can be any, is how you want to communicate through that medium is more important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Komal and Sumit, for sharing your experience with our students. And as I said, they have definitely they have understood the importance of effective communication, and I'm sure they'll use your expertise whenever they are, going out and implementing their action plans. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Komal and Sumit.
Thank you, guys. And I see some more questions, Shubham, in the chat box.
Yes.
I would love to answer them. And because there's some questions relating to podcast, what I also want to highlight is if anyone, whether individual, group, at school level, you guys want to start engaging through a podcast or a community radio, we can surely help you with that. So we can at least give you ideas how you can start at your school level or help you reach out to people who are already doing something in that medium.
Thank you, Komal. We'll definitely share the questions with you, with both of you, so that you can help and answer them. Okay. So moving ahead with the last session of the day, let's understand how sustainability plays a major role in business sector. We have someone special joining us. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so we have someone special joining with us today to give a deeper understanding about this topic. Dr. Praveer Deshmukh. Dr. Praveer is a biodiversity expert having around 2 decades of experience in the field of biodiversity risk management, environmental management, and sustainable development. He has a PhD in botany and developed guidance document and best practices for business for biodiversity risk management. At CII CESD, he manages the nature portfolio and working on India Business and Biodiversity Initiative, IBBI. IBBI is a joint platform of MOEFCC and CII with an objective to support integration of nature value in business decision making. He is working with businesses, governments, and stakeholder organizations to drive the biodiversity conservation and sustainable management of ecosystem services. He also works on he also works on policy advocacy on biodiversity related national regulations and global standards to support business in addressing regulatory and transition risk. We are delighted to have you with us, join us today, Dr. Praveer Deshmukh. So thank you so much, and over to you.
Hey, thanks for the invitations, and I think really great to see the previous discussion. I was here listening to you, and I think lots of questions do have an interaction with my session also. So let's jump into the session. So we have around 20 minutes. I will talk. I will try to finish it as early as possible, and I will keep more time for our discussion. So anybody will be able to post my slides. Yeah. So I'm a part of a industry association which we called as the CII Confederation of Indian Industry. This is one of the biggest industry association, and also you can see the another logo which is there, which is in the green, and there we are talking about CII Center of Excellence for Sustainable Development. So again, so we have just completed 20 years this year, And so you understand that now we are talking. So the sustainability is again pushing. We are pushing sustainability 20 years back to the industry. That why it is a critical part and why it should be a part of business decision making. So I think my presentation will be around this centers work and how we are pushing the sustainability aspects or nature aspect to the businesses. And also there is a lots of more intake from them that they are very keen to understand uh, how 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 to drive, what is the policy changes, what are the drivers, how they can work on it. And I think I also faced a similar issues in the previous session, that how to communicate with them, how to inform them that how they can make a decision which is very long term one, which have a multiple benefits, and it will also provide a long term solutions to them rather than a short term benefit, but a long term benefit to them. Next slides. This is just to show you that what is mean by sustainability. I think it's a very simple concept that whatever we need today, we are getting it today only and not going taking from the future. So I think WWF come up with a report that how much earth we are utilizing to meet our requirements, and we are utilizing almost double the earth systems. So again, I think that is what sustainability is, that whatever we are able to produce right now, that should be used by us, and rather than getting it from future or getting it over stress and all this thing, because we just have a one planet. Also, when you're going through the part, and there are some critical pillars of this sustainability. So first is definitely where we're talking about the planet, so which is also related to the environmental sustainability. Then also the social sustainability. So what I did is actually I have make two pillars, which is very critical. So we need environment also, and we need a social sustainability also, and because these two pillars are very critical. But the middle pillars are also critical. That what is the economic sustainability, and also the governance and ethics sustainability. That are we extracting properly, or for, so again these four pillars are very much interacting each other. And if we are able to fail anybody, anyone, then there is also these other pillars that have been also been impacted. So there are different areas. I think this presentation will be shared with you. We can go through it and that thing. Next slide. Yeah. So I think every year the World Economic Forum comes with a global risk report, and again they identify what how the sustainability areas has been modifying, what is the short-term targets and long-term target. And you can see that these are the two tables which businesses do take a very seriously, because this is a business forum which is linked to economic aspects. And you can see there are lots of green areas which is related to the nature or sustainability aspects for a short term. So there are two, three areas in a 2 year span. And also there are a lot more areas in the next 10 years which will be critical to the risk to the business. And they want to address this risk right now. So it is, they're definitely working on a short term plans, but for a long term, how they can design this aspect. And I think you can see lots of the companies now are building some of this aspect, that now they are integrating lots of circular products into their manufacturing facilities. They are trying to reduce their water footprint. They are trying to reduce their nature footprint. So this is again a long-term plan, which is not possible right now to implement, or they started working on this thing. So at least in the next 10 years, they are able to address this risk in a much better way. Next slide. So how companies are working on this aspect is again, what is mean by sustainability for them? So first is, are they looking for value beyond profit? So how they're managing their profitability and also the planet requirement or the sustainability aspect or limited resource availability. Because what happens with the companies are also, because if they want, they have to pay the water price and it continuously increasing, then they are not able to produce that product in a similar cost or much efficient cost. So they understand what is meant by profitability, and they're now linking these aspects with the nature aspect, or whatever the resources, whatever the mining materials is coming. And I think you can see there are lots of policies are being also been developed. So let's take an example of the new EPR policies, where now tires are also part of that EPR, where companies has to recycle and use maximum recycled material as a part of the fresh product also. So these are some of the areas where companies would like to do or working on it. Then also another part is the risk management. This is how company understand this aspect. And I think in a previous session, somebody do talk about how to communicate that they should invest into the nature part. So for businesses, the risk is a word, or it is a buzzword for them. As soon as you talk about risk, they will understand or they will start listening to you. Or anybody, if you say that if somebody is extracting a medicinal plant from the forest area and you talk about that if you are extracting in this way in the future or in the next 2 years, you may not able to extract this plant. So that is a risk. So again, I think this is now also a way to talk about the risk and also the challenges. When you are talking about the risk, also talk about the opportunities also. That if you are managing it sustainably, these are the opportunities for you. So every year you are able to extract 10% or 10 kgs of medicinal plants or extraction something or sustainable farming can be done and all these things. And I think you can see lots of buzzword around the ESGs and all these things where they're talking about climate change, socials and regulations part. So these are as a part of risk management. Then they are also investing a lot more in the innovations and efficiency, and this is also true with the sustainability part also, because lots of investment is now going in how to maximize the recycling of e-waste, how to maximize the recycling of tire waste or oils and all this thing, because this is actually built in from the geological resources. Mining that resources will be a very cost challenging thing, but if we can recycle, it will be available in a much easy way because now most of the waste is coming to the systems and we can extract and then work on it. So again, lots of innovations and efficiency is going on that way. Again, very important part, and I think this is also a pillar where we talk about the society, which is the stakeholder focus. I think you can see lots of companies now come up with that product labels that my product is sustainable, it is have a less water footprint, it has a maximum recyclability, it has no impact on nature, the product has been sourced from a deforestation free areas. So all these things are coming because the stakeholders are demanding these things. So this is also a major driver for a sustainability, also for a business. And the very important part is that business is not looking only for a 1 year production or 2 years production because they have invested a lot more into the infrastructure, whatever they have built to produce tires, to produce food, to produce laptops, and all these things. So they are also looking at am I resilient for a future? And that what that means is resilience means is not only on a climate change that if the GHG emission I can reduce and I can reduce the flooding and all these things, but that raw material will be available after 5 years or not? If that raw material is not available, am I able to survive my business or I have to close my business? So again, this is the future resilience they are looking at, and there are multiple parts like nature part. That, for example, if I am operating in an area which is a very drought-prone area, should I invest more into that area in my factory, or I shift in another area, or can I invest in a methodology or a model where I require a minimum amount or no amount of water, or can I also invest in a recycling of city waste and then using that waste, treated waste as a part of my process requirement. So these are also some of the areas where companies are working, which is actually build their future resilience, which might be related to the climate change, which might be related to the regulation part, which might be related to sourcing the critical minerals or the natural resources also. Next slide. Yeah. And again, what is happening? I think you might have seen these logos. I just quickly talking about that. These are also some of the global action areas where we're talking about moving from unsustainable behavior or unsustainable management of resources to a sustainable management of resources. So I think the first part is the SDG. Then you know the Paris commitment or Paris agreement, where countries has committed for achieving the net zero goal by 2050 or 2070, which again followed by businesses. So let's take an example. In India, government of India has committed for 2070 target because we have a population, we have a challenges, multiple challenges. There are lots of more companies in India. They only targeting about how to achieve before 2050, and they are investing substantially into that roadmap or carbon neutrality journey or climate transition. Similar also the global biodiversity framework where you are working or you will be developing this your documentation on it. It also talk about the two visions that how we can reverse the nature laws by 2030 and how we can operate or live in harmony with nature. And this is also applicable to business. Because if the government is going to promote this type of policies that after 2030 or till 2030 we have to restore more and more degraded land, if the businesses are not following that system, then they may fall back, or that not help them in a building a resilience for the future. So they are interested, and you can see there are lots of companies. They have their policies on biodiversity. So let's take an example. I recently worked with the Club Mahindra, so they are also revising their biodiversity policy based on the global biodiversity framework. That how the global biodiversity framework can be a basis for Club Mahindra to plan the future projects or maintain their present projects. Because it's a tourism business, they are heavily dependent on these aspects, and how it can be integrated and also documented and showcased to them. Next. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I think these are some of the areas. I think I hope you understand the ESG part, because I think lots of companies are very keen. They are talking too much about it. It is again, this is more related to the investors, that how investors or stakeholders are looking at a company, how they are actually reporting on it. So ESG is becoming a very buzzword. But there are also some of the other things are also happening. Like take an example of IISB. This is again an investor-driven investment into the company, that there are investors are interested and they are looking at how companies are performing on sustainability, how their roadmaps are properly built in for the future. Is there any resilience, or if they are still going on the similar pathways? Taking the learning from same, or how the systems can be built in India. The SEBI, which is again a share market body in India, they have come up with a BRSR report, or BRSR methodology for industries. So they are also asking companies to showcase that what is their material risk, what are their modalities, how they are taking a decisions on sustainability areas, and how they are actually disclosing that aspect. And a very important part, considering the global biodiversity framework, the task force on nature-related financial disclosure. So this has also triggered lots of action by the business, because it provides methodology to them that how to assess the nature-related risk or sustainability related risks, and then how to disclose them or how to work on this thing. So when you are looking at all this aspect, and when you are talking about if you whenever you are talking with the businesses, do talk about these parameters also, so that what is the global commitment, how the reporting is coming, and then they will listen to you rather than only focusing on the species conservations or how these things. Do talk about that. What is the benefit this will drive to them? How their branding can be built in? How their future resilience can be built in if they integrate sustainability or nature aspect into their decision. Next slide. So here I will be going with some of the case studies. They are more focusing on the biodiversity part. So this is one of the case study where we have worked as a CII. It's a Mahindra resort. It's in Madhigiri. This resort is not having any ACs. It's totally based on the green area, no ACs, only fans in the room. So there are almost 200 rooms. And you can see the central part of this photo. So that central part is a totally a lush green forest, which have a lots of endemic species to the Western Ghats, and it also hosts the habitat of some of the endemic birds of Western Ghats. And when we have documented this case study for a Mahindra, when we showcase all these results to them, so they have taken a decision that the central part will not be constructed and will be maintained as it is. And they also committed that this resort will be a no AC or no cooling resort. And again, there are definitely a benefit for them that uh, they have achieved. This resort is a 100% book. So that's the opportunity they can create through the business or integrating nature aspects. Next slide. I think I hope you already know the Godrej group, which is conserving a vast mangrove patch in Maharashtra, which is near Mumbai or Vikroli area. This is a case study what we have done in 2019. I think during 2019 there was a huge flood in Mumbai. Lots of roads, lots of industries has been blocked. They have faced lots of issues. But Godrej operations, their industrial operations or their colony operations didn't have any impact, because they are able to protect that mangroves, which actually help in addressing the water level into that area, which actually stabilize water, which resulted in a no flooding in this area. And that has a cost benefit to them. And after these case studies, they also now investing in a multiple conservation projects. So they are planning to have a detailed assessment for the Thani Creek in Maharashtra. Then also they are planning to have a detailed studies, and I think WWF is also partner in these studies, and we are also helping them along the Chennai port, Chennai area. So lots of these mangroves has a multiple values, and if we are able to communicate them that how they are benefiting or these ecosystems are benefiting them and how they can build their resilience for future, they are keen to invest into it. Next slide. Yeah. So again, I think this is totally a different and maybe a unique study. So this is the Tata Steel operation. They work on a chromite mining, and if they so again the major challenge with chromite, when they process that chromite through chemical systems, there are chances that there are lots of hexavalent chromium, which is very lethal or uh, which is very toxic to animals and humans, and they have to manage that waste management in a very different way, and lots of investment is required. But what they did is they also identified that is there any nature-based solutions where they can utilize. So there is a plant, Terminalia chibula, they have undertaken lots of studies with that plant seed, and they identified when they're treating this chromium with the Terminalia chibula seed powders and fragmentation. So this hexavalent chromium is not coming. So their waste has become zero, and then production has increased. So again, how companies are looking at. So again, building a chemical system is much easy for them, but they also identified a technology which is helpful for reducing their nature-related aspects, reducing the impact on the nature, and they have invested in a plant-based solutions, and it's have a lots of cost benefit. Their product is much more accepted by their suppliers or the who are purchasing from them. Most of these automobile companies and all these things. So these are the companies how actually they look for a sustainability aspect. Next slide. So again, how we are promoting, I think this is a part where I think I definitely want to let you know that how we are working. So we have a multiple models. There are the different alliances where we are working, where the companies come together, discuss the challenge, and then we try to help them through policy advocacy, through research, and all these things. So we are working on clean air, better life. We are working in multiple cities. Then there is a CII Climate Action Charter, where we are again helping them to take the decision based on the climate areas. Then there is an India Plastic Pact, where every every company of the supply chain of the plastic producer, the plastic user like ITCs and some other companies. There are recyclers, and there are also design companies who design this packaging. So they are all on the board of this India Plastic Pact, and they are actually looking at and how the design can be made so that 100% recycling can be possible in packagings and all this. And also the platform which I am working, which is India Business and Biodiversity Initiative, uh, where again we are promoting how business can commit on nature conservation and integrate the nature value into the business decision making. And at present, I'm working with around 150 business members. They are very keen to work on this thing. There are lots of partnership areas, and we do support lots of tools which is more India specific, like ESG, EcoAge, and zero waste to landfill, or how they can go for a single use plastic free. So these are the methodologies we are actually helping businesses to integrate the sustainability part, and also to report and showcase how they can work in a much resilient way. So I think that's it from my side, and happy to take your discussion, questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Praveer. It was definitely an insightful session. We have a few questions from our curious young conservation leaders. The first question is, if true sustainability challenges the way business make profit, how can we trust corporate sustainability pledges that don't involve changing their core business models? You want me to repeat it?
Yeah, please.
So the question is, if true sustainability challenges the way businesses make profit, how can we trust corporate sustainability pledges that don't involve changing their core business model?
Uh, so I think a measure is again showcasing them that what is the future required, what is the stakeholder or a business or maybe investors or the users requirement, and then they can change the aspects. But yes, in a future, considering the population we are increasing, the requirement will be much higher. But again, we can adopt a multiple models like what is happening now in Delhi. Previously, we used to keep all the waste generated in a heap of hills. Now it has been converted into a multiple aspects. So how whatever can be extracted or whatever resources can be extracted and then rest of the can be burned or can be utilized for the cement sector. So again, we are actually reducing pressure on our models. But again, this is not a sustainable model. But this model is right now is important. So there are lots of transitional models which comes in a place. At present, this is a transitional model. But again, there are lots of initiatives like from government that plastic will need to be recycled at house only. Only the organic waste or even organic waste also can be fertilized, can be developed into fertilizers and all these things. So these are the models which is important, which will definitely come in a much more force in the next few years because there are lots of technology challenges and all these things. But companies are interested. And again, I think very important is that how we communicate all these aspects. I think that will be a critical part and showcase them that what is an opportunity in the future.
Thank you so much for answering that, Dr. Praveer. Another question is, what are shareholders and how do you connect with the shareholders?
Yeah, so shareholders are, let's take an example, the State Bank of India, who is investing into the company, or the shareholders like who are investing into the trading portals, where they do look at how companies are performing. Are they are sustainable? And I think ESG is also one of the tool where they can assess that how companies are performing. And again, these are the platforms what they are looking at, and based on the company's result or how they are performing, or is there any cases against the company? So there are you see lots of companies do face issues with the government where NGT issued the notice and all this thing, and then you compare with their share market, you will see that there is a sudden drop in their share market. Suddenly, the people will tend to get back the money, and that's a huge risk for them. So uh, how so these are the mostly the stakeholders. There are also lots of impact investor. I think this is also you have seen as a new word which is coming. Like so, they do look at that how companies are performing not only short term but in the long term on ESG aspects. Did they have a well communication systems? Did they have a good stakeholder engagement or not? Or there in the past there were lots of cases and now there is no cases. So they look at that which companies are performing well and then they invest into these companies. So these are the ways stakeholders can be identified.
Thank you so much. And we'll take the last question, Dr. Praveer. So, elaborate the role of corporate social responsibility, CSR, in promoting biodiversity conservation.
Uh, so, uh, what I work or what we promote as a part of CII, when we're talking about business sustainability, CSR should not be a part of it. So it should be a investment from beyond that 2%. The 2% is for the local community, local stakeholders. Yes, it can be invested into that value creation for the communities. But when we are look at for a business sustainability, it should come from their own investment or own profits. And again, that might be important to say is like if I am investing in forest conservation, which is actually reducing flood to my plant areas or my agriculture areas and all these things. Why should it come from your CSR? It should come from your profit, which the company has earned because of the plantations or cropping patterns and all these things. So I think that is what we are promoting. And I think when you show the on ESG, SEBI or BRSR, they are also looking at that how companies are investing from their own pocket into these areas because this is the benefit for the business sustainability and not from the profit. So CSR is only when company make a profit, then they have to share. But to make a profit, they have to invest into the nature. I think that yes, sir, is very important. But it's for the community. It can be built in resilience to the community. It can be invest. Lots of actions can be planned, like wetland restorations or plantations or some native species promotions or species conservation can be planned, but should not be mixed with the business sustainability. It is for the local community sustainability, which is that a focus, and for business sustainability, they should focus on from their own pockets and from their own investments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Praveer, for answering all these questions. There are a few more questions. What we can do is we can send you these questions and you can just help us in, answering that, and we can share these answers with them going ahead. Okay. So thank you so much. It was, really great to have you on board and, to have a discussion with our young conservation leaders. I am sure that they have learned a new aspect of environment conservation and how sustainability plays a major role in the business sector. So thank you so much, Dr. Praveer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so it was a very interesting and a knowledgeable day for all of us. I'm sure we have learned different areas of environment and wildlife, conservation through our different experts that were present today. I'm sure that you must have enjoyed today's all the sessions along with the fun and engaging activities. But I want to hear it from you that what are the two key takeaways that you will be taking back with you from today's sessions. So I want you to mention these key takeaways in the chat box, and let's see what new have you learned today. Okay, climate change and podcast creation, that's important. What else? Climate action, biodiversity conservation, of course, through different mediums, sustainability in business, how we, the youth, can make an impact via social media, of course, our role in spreading awareness of biodiversity, that is through effective communication for promotion of biodiversity. Today, we learned about biodiversity and climate change, global warming, communication, and sustainable development. We learned how enhanced greenhouse activities can increase global warmth, of course, sustainability in business again. Okay, so I can see a lot of answers from you all, and I can see how attentive you were and how interested you were to understand and gain knowledge, gain more knowledge about these aspects. So with this, I would like to end today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And tomorrow again is the last day of MCOP virtual session, and be present, be attentive, because we have many such exciting sessions and more activities for you all. So thank you so much.